My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
This is light activity that is also impossible to be created naturally. It is the magnified size of my hand as I have it down at a lower level, and this is light elevated above my head on the inside of the apartment. All right, this is my hand. It is magnified in size. You can see it on the ceiling, large shadow of my hand above. This light activity through what is creating magnified size of my shadow of my hand. All right, as you can see it here. And this is blinds that are closed, just to give you context. Blind slats and window covering, a crack in the blinds, reflection of light. None of this is sunlight that hits the blinds. You also know it's not sunlight when I get it shooting down on the floor, appearing as dots, disappearing, moving around as dots on the floor, disappearing, appearing as lines that go in different directions, lines that then appear on the same wall. And none of this is sunlight, and it's above the window right now, piercing through with his window slats at an upward trajectory. So this is the light that is piercing through. This is light activity. This is stalking with light. When Tracy Banks walks in and out of the apartment, she is stalking with light. She is stalking with light with all the demons that live at the apartment building that are monitoring as a apartment complex and as a neighborhood. And as I put my hand through what is impossible light activity, the shadow of it appears above my head, creating light activity like this. This is what I'm doing. This is light activity creation. This is impossible light activity. And it's also very demonic. This is where government is indeed monitoring with the civilian population. The civilian population and that government that is monitoring. Sunlight doesn't do that, okay? And sunlight is not the product of the sun. That is outside of the building as well, directly above in its zenith, like this. And creating this light activity that is distinct and different from this. And also look at the light activity that's occurring. This is the same light activity at 7:21 in the morning. It's the same light activity at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it has nothing to do with the fake sun that's outside. It's again coming downward at a trajectory, coming on the inside over the door, piercing through. That's not sunlight. Just like this isn't sunlight. This isn't sunlight either. This is demonic. AVANATH Capital Management is gang stalking. And this is very much speaking to the federal offenses that the people of the state are engaging in, monitoring me. And so is the state of California, the city of Ontario. This is AVANATH that's engaging in a quote-unquote admission to federal group stalking monitoring by calling it an inspection on April 25th, 2025. Where they are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, as the evidence has already shown. This is a threat, while the entity is also, AVANATH is abusing the laws and is abusing its constitutional rights to maintain what is a corrupt government that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. And then under the existing laws that are currently in operation, they are abusing it and calling it an inspection in an apartment where they're maintaining surveillance with the very residents via the employees. This is P.O.C. None of this is sunlight. This engineered light that's appearing above on the inside of the apartment, creating the magnified size of my shadow, that's not sunlight. That's not sunlight. Okay? That's not sunlight. And that's not the sun, because you know that it's still here at 7:21 in the morning on this side. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 hours later, it's at its zenith. And you know that 5 hours from now, it's merely here on this side of the same apartment door, as I'm able to get it by doing just like that. Okay? Meaning the entity is stalking with light. This is P.O.C. It's currently 12:09 p.m. All right, it is currently April 24th, 2025. As 2:42 p.m. today, I wake up, and the moment that I wake up, I am again documenting the pattern of conduct as the demon-possessed are gang stalking and monitoring. Understand, gang stalking is the system of monitoring. Context is that monitoring is demonic. Monitoring is demonic activity. Demonic activity is relevant to what are spirits that are just using people. Demon possession. Satan is a spirit, and he needs people to move around. He needs people to speak his will. He needs people to perform his will. This is what gang stalking is. It's a monitoring system, and it's criminal surveillance, while the government is filled with demons who are monitoring, and it is prosecuted as surveillance. Monitoring is also understood as inhumane, and it's also unconstitutional, because the government that is monitoring you and is exposed as being severely mentally deranged and demented, psychopathic, antisocial, etc., while human beings are monitoring, is a product of demon possession. They're being prosecuted for criminal surveillance because you have to stalk the person that you're monitoring. The entity is obsessively stalking, as is the case, which, and as a matter of documentation, is what the record shows that I remain subject to, by the way. While the government would assert that they are investigating, the government is not investigating itself. The government is not investigating when I remain subject to the same threat, when I remain subject to the same exact pattern of conduct, before the government was in a position where it is forced to admit that it is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The entire system of gang stalking that I have unilaterally, individually, alone, established and created a body of evidence proving, while the government that would assert that it's investigating has been targeting the entire time and is merely doing nothing other than changing posture. And by changing posture, you're just putting a different label on the exact same thing that you've been engaging in for years, as a matter of documentation, since 2018. All right. First of all. Second of all, when I wake up at 2:42 p.m., that's the context. The entity that is gang stalking is monitoring. The entity that is monitoring is engaging in what is demonic activity. Monitoring a human being, you need to understand Satan is obsessed with God's workmanship. And this obsession is entirely unnatural. It is going beyond what is, again, the young boy that's stalking his ex-girlfriend because he wants to get back with her and he can't handle rejection after she told him no, and he's still stalking her a little bit, or vice versa, little girls that are stalking, or even adult people. This is not normal emotional instability that eventually fades away. You replace them with someone else. The things that normal people typically, or and emotionally immature people typically go through. This is gang stalking, which is demonic, and this obsession does not pass away. This obsession is also not rational. It's not based on any actual relationship either with the targeted individual. The demon possessed are a whole population and the government that has no relationship necessarily at all with the targeted individual who is not demon possessed.
All right. Satan is obsessed with God's workmanship. First of all, Satan uses people to sit around studying God's workmanship. This is how you have someone like Tracy Banks, who was the person that gave birth to me. She is also the person who was in a position as a hitman while the state of California, the U.S. government, is targeting me, has been engaged in an ongoing lifetime project, if you will, in my life. And Tracy Banks has, and not just Tracy Banks, my relative, Eric Spencer, and everyone that is quote unquote positioned, because that's what they are. These are people that have been positioned in my life, not actual friends, not genuine relationships. These are people who are hitmen. These are people who are in a position to quote unquote watch you, and watching you is labeled as a friendship, is labeled as a romantic relationship. It is labeled as a parental relationship, any sort of familial relationship, any sort of professional relationship, any job that you get hired on. It's a matter of the government literally being the one whereby it is only with the knowledge and consent, essentially, of the government that's engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. You're not getting any job outside of the knowledge of the U.S. government. And that's not because you're going through some credit and background check. That's because I'm subject to state targeting. And I have not ever worked anywhere that the entity was not aware of while they were monitoring, meaning I was refused a lot of jobs, not because I'm incapable of performing, not because I'm not overqualified, but because the entity is gang stalking and monitoring. And it's also interested in ruining career prospects. That's relevant to damages, but nonetheless, it's pursuant to the P.O.C. This is also defying the illusion regarding freedom in this country. In this country that is engaging in surveillance. And I'm also providing what is understanding monitoring and the level of monitoring that is involved. Okay. So the entity that's gang stalking is doing so, and state actors such as Jason Isaac Fields. This is somebody that is working at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, serving alcohol. This is somebody that came from the ghetto in downtown San Bernardino, came from nothingness. Came from, the bottom of the bottom, the very bad. If you're aware of San Bernardino County, I'm familiar with San Bernardino. I'm familiar with the decent area, and I'm familiar with the very bad area. Okay, so for those that are ignorant about San Bernardino, you would just refer to San Bernardino in its totality as ghetto, and I understand that. But however, I've lived in the area in San Bernardino where, by the way, the gang stalkers, San Bernardino Police Department, maintain heavy presence, which is again where federal group stalking monitoring is underway. That is maintaining the veneer of protecting where a lot of the money is. That's where Cal State San Bernardino is. That's where the neighborhood is in a better position. It's quote unquote safer, as you would again assess the superficial veneer where federal group stalking and monitoring is happening in the quote unquote ghetto and in the quote unquote good area as well. Okay. But nonetheless, Jason Isaac Fields came from the pit. Okay. And this is somebody that is, working at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, serving alcohol, left the ghetto in San Bernardino to move to Las Vegas, Nevada, where he was a bartender, and engaging in what is all manner of whatever lifestyle that he maintained. I never actually knew this person, but I'm giving relevant context because this is somebody that came from nothing. And this is someone that did not come from some royal background, that does not come from money, was struggling, working at Stater Brothers, working in the meat department, working long schedules, literally helping to support his family that could not afford to pay the bills. Okay. And so I just want to give context. This is the demon that's gang stalking and is obsessively consumed with me to date. This is someone that is gang stalking with people like Tracy Banks, having sex with Tracy Banks. This is somebody that has not, under any circumstances, contrary to what this demon may have represented in the public, a lot of these fake prophets, these tarot card readers, where the demon possessed are giving them the information that they are sharing as some prophetic message. None of these demons come from quote unquote money or affluent backgrounds. None of them have this in their history. Tracy Banks herself, this is somebody that is living currently on government funds. This is somebody that is gang stalking me because I have literally already surpassed what would be the economic bracket. The entity, but for gang stalking, is the only reason why I am in the financial circumstance that I am, first of all. And I surpassed this when I graduated from law school and began working in the legal field in 2016. So I want to be clear, this is 9 years where the entity has been targeting me and targeting my career. And this is because government collecting demons, gang stalking that come from nothing, that are envious of my career achievements, envious of what it is that I have done while they've been gang stalking. Just give you context about the demons who are engaging in sexual activity, the Jezebel spirit that uses Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, both obsessed with me, and their sexual activity with each other is based on and motivated by their obsession with me. And they're both spiritually attacking, and they're both gang stalking. One is doing so while abusing their position in government, which, by the way, this bum that came from nothing even got that position because of his quote unquote association with me, in order to use it to gang stalk me while he's having sex with my mother. And they're gang stalking me together with everyone that's in my life that I know by name only, because obviously I don't know that they're demons who are targeting me. All right. And that's the relevant context regarding everybody's sexual activity that's actually relevant, as opposed to making up information about my sexual activity, which is absolutely irrelevant to any sort of mental illness, by the way. But the entity that's engaging in manufacturing information to criminally defame me, like Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks have done, and anybody else that has, because they're going to prison, they're doing so with regard to the envy and the prospects that they have to gang stalk someone in order to get an increase in their career. You're talking about coming from working in the meat department in San Bernardino, living in the ghetto, to working as a bartender in Las Vegas, Nevada, rooming with women, where this demon is then getting a position in government, where this position is used to gang stalk me. To engaging criminally defaming me, kidnapping me, while having ongoing tantric sex and sex rituals, group sex with men and women. That's what Jason Isaac Fields has been focused on for years, and he is still focused on that. All right, he's gang stalking, and the entity is under any circumstances in any position in an anticipated, I can even concede, the entity that would, the federal government, which is the entity, that would assert, and they're going to have to assert something, that there was an ongoing investigation while I've been documenting the whole time. It's an admission to federal group stalking and monitoring. I am documenting what it is the entity is doing, what it is the entity has been doing since I've documented in 2018. As a matter of documentation, I've been subject to this P.O.C. for years, since I was a child. I do nothing other than document it, come up with a nomenclature so that every person that's unfamiliar with demonic behaviors that the government is engaging in to target someone can understand what it is that I'm talking about when I discuss it, when I capture it on video, when you're looking at it and witnessing, both public corruption and demon possession. All right. The entity that has this sort of background, contrary to what tarot card readers who get their information from Satan that wants to speak of himself higher than he actually is, these demons come from nothingness. And I want to be clear, my being related to common thieves and criminals and unethical people that have no principles, that will steal and have sex with anyone and do anything for money, regardless of me being related to that, unbeknownst to me, because none of these criminals showed me that about themselves. I've literally been surrounded by strangers my whole life. The entity is engaging in what is gang stalking and engaging in what is a means of seeking to financially constrain me and restrain me, and also doing so while envious of what it is that I've accomplished years ago. The fact that I went to college, I was already in a different income bracket than these that come from the ghetto and never surpassed what is where they're at. And by the way, they resort to thievery and corruption, and doing so in a manner that serves to profit them. You have a whole government system, the government system, the federal government, people that are already at an income bracket that exceeds me. Why am I, as a high school student, why am I as a college student, why am I as a law school student interested by, a subject of interest to the federal government? Okay, that's the question, because I was gang stalked at law school, literally by the students in law school, by the professors teaching the courses in law school, at the law school itself, Whittier Law School in Costa Mesa, which again, coincidentally has not been shut down. This is the entity that is under all circumstances seeking to conceal all of the ways in which I've been targeted. And there is no coincidence or no random piece of information with regard to the institutions that have been engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, such as Cal State San Bernardino as well. This is another institution where I'm subject to federal group stalking and monitoring. And the entity that is, again, the lowlifes that surround me, such as Jason Isaac Fields, such as Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer, these people who are, again, living their lives receiving government assistance. And that's not to put down anyone else that is legitimately struggling, because a lot of times, as federal group stalking monitoring proves, you are put in positions where we're subject to surveillance. It's an intentional act to limit you when you are in such financial straits outside of what are your own efforts in your life and in your professional life. The fact that you have the documentation proving the absence of any unwillingness to work hard. I went to and finance my own college education. I went to and finance what is my own law school education. None of these low-life common criminals were able to help, nor did they have the credit to do so. And I want to be clear, I am the object of envy for that. That's relevant in addition to the fact that they're just demons who don't need a reason to target me. This is public corruption by a government that knows who I am and is aware of my advanced abilities. Gang stalking is relevant to keeping such a person like myself down, if you will. And by down, I mean limited. This is beyond being a black woman. But the racism is a spirit. It's not irrelevant. It's just not the actual reason. It goes beyond race. These black-faced minions that I'm documenting, these brown-skinned people, these Latinos, they're gang stalking, okay? They are quote unquote oppressed as well. They're gang stalking. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct, and the entity that is so obsessed with not only who I am and what it is that I surpassed years ago. This is relevant to the level of monitoring that is underway, monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom. And as I'm documenting at 2:42 p.m., I already documented the fake sun. So you know it's at literally in its zenith at the top of my head, center position over Tracy Banks's front door where I stand. And as I'm capturing the images of that, you're looking at the engineered light that's inside of the apartment. So at 2:42 p.m., this is where the specific environment remains. And I remain subject to the pattern of conduct. That's how you're understanding why I'm talking about the environment when I'm talking about what's going on with the people around me. The environment is tethered to the pattern of conduct where surveillance and what I'm documenting, criminal monitoring, targeting with the intent to murder and kidnap by an obsessed entity. This demon-possessed entity is obsessed with me, and it includes state actors like Jason Isaac Fields, who are not the federal government is not conducting a legitimate and actual investigation. The federal government is engaged in gang stalking with the state, the city of Ontario. The same exact pattern of conduct has not changed. The only thing that is underway is simultaneous suppression of evidence, while the entity is protecting the gang stalkers, the sex offenders, the demons, the terrorists, while exposing myself, the one whose life is being threatened, the one whose character is being defamed, the one whose privacy is being exploited and violated in unprecedented and never before heard of unbelievable ways, such as bathroom monitoring. Okay, the entity is engaging in this at 2:42 p.m. The demons that are indeed obsessed in the specific environment. I am asleep and I wear headphones as I go to sleep. I listen to things such as the sound of rain, or if you've ever heard of things such as brown noise, pink noise, white noise, whatever. This is the type of things that I listen to when I fall asleep. And it also is a means of blocking out the demons that are monitoring obsessively. They're psychopaths, as I'm documenting the demon in Unit 55 pacing obsessively while she hears me. And she represents the entity, because it's not just this one demon. You're dealing with a spirit. That spirit is not only filling her body, it's filling everyone's body around. I'm referring to the current demon that is the source of pacing and amplified noise. Do not, in your mind, marry yourself to the one image. Satan is a spirit. He's using multiple at the same time. Okay? So nonetheless, the entity that is psychopathic, as I've documented, ongoing obsessive pacing, amplified noise of all manner, monitoring obsessively, and then hostile, because again, the entity that's psychologically torturing, the entity that is demon-possessed, is both fascinated, obsessed with me, and also enraged. with God's workmanship that it cannot break. Okay, so there is this conflict, this complexity to the system that I remain subject to. All of it is inhumane. All of it is unconstitutional. It's all criminal. It's a means of prosecution. But I'm going to translate this for you because you need to understand the wiles of the devil. All right. And it's also relevant to the diagnosis of those whose behavior is demonstrative of actual mental illness. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and the entity that is engaging in this is so obsessed, and I am sleeping regularly wearing headphones, and I've documented on plenty occasions the entity that is, despite the fact that I'm wearing headphones, despite the fact that I am listening to content as I fall asleep, the supernatural occurrence with regard to the amplified noise that's piercing through the headphones, it's so loud that it is overwhelming. What the noise that I'm listening to is designed to block out what is the monitoring by the demons that are obsessed with me. Okay, Satan is giving them word, and they're literally ticking time bombs. And so at Satan's word, that's when the demon possessed perform. That includes any bombing of a building. That includes any murder of children, any sexual violation of any person over or under the age of majority. And so it is with gang stalking. At Satan's word, they act. These are the demon possessed that are monitoring. And the entity that is engaging in what is ongoing stalking with amplified noise, criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment. This is one of the reasons why, aside from the fact that I enjoy listening to calming and relaxing sounds like the rain and whatnot, the entity is stalking with amplified noise on an ongoing basis, monitoring in psychopathic manners, using the appliances, using the communication devices, using the demon-possessed people, stalking with light. All of this is ongoing. So the entity is monitoring, and I wear headphones, and I'm giving context because I've documented this already before, and it's relevant to what the entity has been doing for a prolonged period. And that includes monitoring, federal stalking, Title 18 on communication devices on the venue of the internet, pursuant to what is obsessive monitoring. Monitoring is sitting around stalking someone and studying them. The only difference is that they have not locked me in what is something that you'd see in like I Am Legend, in a cage where it's clear and you're sitting there with pads just watching them in the cage, placing fluorescent light in the cage and just sitting there watching them. Watch how they breathe. Watch how they blink. Watch how they move their mouth when they talk. Watch how their mouth sits when they don't talk. What is it that they're doing when they stand up? How do they stand up? Look at their posture. Observe how they move their feet when they're walking. This is how the demon possessed are heavily studying God's workmanship, whom are being gang stalked. Okay, so the entity is engaging in this manner of monitoring me in my sleep, and the interference with the operation of my communication device, the communication devices that I plug my headphones into, where I'm listening to the sound of rain, for example. And while I go into, this is requiring monitoring, that's awareness, knowledge of when I'm conscious and when I'm unconscious, in that unconscious state. And the ability to turn those headphones on and off is federal stalking pursuant to monitoring, which is done by demons who are so obsessed. I've already broken this down before, and I've already documented this before, but this is what's happening at 2:42 p.m. when I am in this unconscious sleep, and I am in a sleeping state, and my headphones are off. And I am aware of this because I wake up at the moment where I am hearing absolute silence and the demons turn my headphones back on. Okay, this is again trying to turn it back on before I am conscious and aware of it. I caught that while I'm still in this state of going from being asleep to waking up. And this is not a dream in the same way that the fake sun is not a figment of your imagination. And this is also why you have to document, because Satan, who is using people, so the demon possessed, in other words, that are monitoring, are always doing so in a manner in which people have never heard of. That's why you're diagnosing mental illness when you allege things such as strangers are stalking. That's what they use to diagnose mental illness, when you allege things such as what no one has ever claimed and no one has ever proven either, but it's designed to, when you claim something like stalking with light, stalking under a fake sun, stalking with amplified noise. You can't hear the train. And the also amplified train inside of the apartment is a means of Psychological torture. As you document that which is unheard of, which the entity uses to diagnose, and you continue doing that in order to psychologically torture as well. The entity is engaging in this while simultaneously suppressing evidence on the venue of the internet. And demons, including the federal government, gang stalkers such as Jason Isaac Fields, are engaging with simultaneous suppression of my evidence while obsessively monitoring me in my sleep, spiritually attacking, studying me as I am in an unconscious state, and controlling my devices, turning off the noise so that they can more closely observe me, monitoring, spiritually spying. A bunch of demons sitting around spiritually spying, just watching, staring, salivating, while I am asleep and in that state. And the moment that I wake up, understand my waking up is also based on the fact that they are interfering with the state that I'm in when I go to sleep. That's also a cause for waking up. And also the Lord Jesus himself, who wants me to testify to what Satan is doing. And so this is what I'm speaking to with regard to monitoring, which is done by the demon possessed. The demon possessed are in the government, the state and federal government, and also, as you are witnessing, the local government in the city of Ontario, where Paul Leon is engaging in what is domestic terrorism, not any lawful operations of a mayor. This is gang stalking, public corruption that's being exposed. The entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. is obsessed to the degree to where the entity is studying sleep patterns. The entity is studying while you're in that unconscious state, what it is that you're dreaming about. You need to understand that this is the practice of witchcraft. This is, again, the practicing of sitting around and watching and monitoring and studying God's workmanship, the one, myself, whom they cannot break, the one whom they cannot figure out, the one whose steps and decisions and what I do, they cannot anticipate. The only thing that they can reasonably anticipate is documentation and exposure, because I'm going to because it is the Lord's will that you understand what Satan is doing. And in the United States, for whatever reason, it is God's will that you understand what the government is engaging in. And the government's going to be prosecuted. The government is going to be subject to federal restraining orders. Delusional psychopaths such as Tracy Banks is not capable of gang stalking me by herself. She is not the only person who is engaging in practicing witchcraft. She is the person that's practicing witchcraft who is sexually obsessed, who is monitoring her own blood relative. That's how she is distinct. But she is monitoring, as a demon-possessed person, sexually obsessed, gang stalking with the state and federal government. She cannot do this alone. She's not doing it alone. She's doing it under the same exact circumstances. The government that has now created a quote-unquote pivot, and this is in anticipation of whatever the federal government would allege while it's gang stalking, and I'm documenting it to prosecute it. It is not a legitimate investigation. The government is engaging in inhumane experimentation, still doing so while the same exact facts remain, while the same exact threat, which is unlawful to my life, is posed by that quote-unquote investigating entity. It is not different. This is how federal group stalking and monitoring is underway, by the way. The government is calling itself now the investigator when the government is in the same exact position it is in 2018 gang stalking, when it thought then that it was going to murder me, successfully kidnap me by falsely depicting my character as being one who is hallucinating, a paranoid schizophrenic, somebody that's bipolar, whatever it is that you want to depict that person as, that is able to not only allege but prove the reality of federal group stalking and monitoring, which is demonic. The entity that is targeting via the supernatural, and then wants to falsely depict the character of the one that documents the actual psychopaths who are targeting and who are obsessed with the one capable of accomplishing that. That is what is monitoring me in my sleep. At 2:42 p.m. I wake up and my headphones are turned off, and I am aware of this because it is quiet, and as I wake up immediately my headphones turn back on. So it wasn't a product of malfunction where one of my headphones, as I'm sleeping on what is the right side of my person, so my headphones, for example, me lying on my headphone on my right ear, that's not the one that went out. Both of them went out when I wake up from my sleep. And so the reason why I'm pointing that detail out is because I could rationalize, because I'm always fact checking. I'm always going through and documenting, and always differentiating between what is possible, what's probable, what's plausible, and what is the pattern of conduct, and also in order to explain it to those in order that you may understand. And I've already gone through that quote unquote troubleshooting and experiencing no doubt, but this is nothing other than going through the information. The entity that is engaging in the pattern of conduct is already established as engaged in federal stalking. Federal stalking includes controlling communication devices. The entity does so in conformity to the pattern of conduct, in concert with the demons who are gang stalking in relevant position, disabling the Wi-Fi so that the demon in Unit 55 can be heard, amplifying audible activity. This is, again, happening in sync with each other. The demons that are monitoring on the venue of the internet, talking about details about a case that they have nothing to do with, and it's happening in concert with the demons that are gang stalking in relevant position. I've documented that. Because the internet is nothing but a venue. YouTube is nothing but a facilitating venue. They are hence a third party. They are engaged in facilitation. Facilitation also in the form of suppression of evidence. This is the entity, not a private party, not a private actor, not a private business. The specific environment is what establishes that, is what makes that distinction in order to clarify that for you. The fake sun is over a facilitating venue where the government is present, not private citizens. Where surveillance and monitoring is ongoing, not private activity, not freedom of speech. The facilitating venue on the venue of the internet, where surveillance is underway, that's where government speech is underway, where government conduct that serves to facilitate federal group stalking and monitoring, including by interfering with a case against itself, the state, that's where that's underway. No ongoing policies about guidelines about some private site that's speaking to its own rules that it's enforcing while it's removing evidence about an unprecedented criminal act that you remain subject to, which defies their own so-called policies and guidelines, which would be in conformity to their actual guidelines if they were not a third party facilitating state conduct, which they're engaged in California. YouTube is in California. Google is headquartered in California. They are literally gang stalkers in the specific environment and on the venue of the internet. This is where the government is suppressing evidence. But nonetheless, I want to hone in on this. That's all relevant context. The entity that is monitoring is doing so, and this is relevant. This is relevant to what it is that I'm subject to at 242. Demons obsessed, turning off headphones as I sleep and while I dream. While monitoring and gang stalking, the moment I wake up, I hear the headphones turn back on at the same time, which is also relevant to the demons gang stalking relevant position as amplification methods are heard waking me up. This is, again, the impossibility that it's nothing but amplification, that it's, number one, piercing through the headphones where I'm listening to content. That is blocking out noises. But number two, the entity is turning off, controlling my devices in order to interfere with my sleep while they're monitoring, and also just harassing and psychologically torturing, but monitoring nonetheless. Also, while they are engaged in federal stalking, surveillance on communication devices, because they want to more closely listen to you breathe and see how you behave when you turn off the content, which causes a deeper level of sleep, while witnessing and spying on you in the spirit. Understand, this is demonic activity. This is witchcraft. The demon possessed that are gang stalking, meaning obsessed with me. You're stalking people that you're obsessed with. The government is stalking me because the government is obsessed with me. The government is filled with demons, in case you did not get that. That's what that means. And the evidence proves it. The government is gang stalking with a bunch of obsessed elderly people at Woodside Senior Apartments. And this is speaking to what you need to know, what's going on in the United States of America. And it's very, very dark. Very dark. And the figures are alarming. There are more people in darkness. There are more people susceptible. There are more people who are walking around demon-possessed, gang stalking in the United States than you would like to face, than you would like to even acknowledge or accept in your mind. But again, facts and information, in the same way that God himself, Christ Jesus, is God. And whether you want to acknowledge that or not doesn't change that fact. The facts and evidence of the prosecution of the state of California is giving you relevant information that you need, because it is the Lord's will that you be made aware of it, as I have been made subject to this. And this is designed to, it was intended to take my life. It was intended to take my sanity. It was intended to take my peace, so I wouldn't even be able to fall asleep. The entity, the demons, have failed in that endeavor. And the entity that has failed in that endeavor while telling themselves that they're smarter, that they're better, that they can overwhelm by numbers, and that they're going to overwhelm, and they failed. The majority equals Christ Jesus and me, the one who will always speak. I will never be silenced. I will never compromise, contrary to the corrupt government that is engaging in this conduct. And it includes those who would like to be, and they will never be. They're going to be seen as the domestic terrorists that they are, as the threats that they are, as the very dangerous and highly delusional psychopaths. That's not just Tracy Banks. That's her sex partner and fellow cult member, Jason Isaac Fields, who is listening to demons. He's listening to demons while he's still monitoring. And this is somebody that's simultaneously abusing government positions. The government is gang stalking via people like him who are stalking and monitoring in the spirit, gang stalking in relevant position, and so obsessively consumed with monitoring me in my sleep, in the environment where the fake sun and engineered light remains. Speaking to nothing other than surveillance, nothing other than demons surrounding, nothing other than the P.O.C. The level of obsession is not only sexual and predatory. They're monitoring my genitalia, which the documentation shows. You'll listen to that video next, because that's the environment that I capture after I'm subject to what is monitoring in a very disturbing manner while I'm sleeping. Why is the government interested in what I'm doing while I'm sleeping? Why are you interested in my genitalia? Why are you interested in me going to college, going to law school, getting a job? Why are you interested in every area of my life? Understand that this is demonic. This is the demon possessed who are obsessively consumed with God's workmanship. They know that Christ Jesus is coming back as well. Satan thinks that he can deceive as many people as possible, which is what he's doing. He can. But Satan knows he's got a limited amount of time. Satan knows what is his inevitable fate. He's going to hell. And everybody that he's deceiving is going to hell with him. Now, the entity is nonetheless engaged in an ongoing, albeit defeated, endeavor. Those who are in Christ Jesus, Satan cannot touch, he can't do anything to you. He is defeated already. And not only that, the entity that is demon possessed is still going to focus in on you. They're still going to be obsessively consumed with you, the other. And you are only the other because you are not in darkness as they are. And they, who are those who serve Satan, know who you are. The spiritual realm is very real. Nobody addresses it because everyone wants you to be ignorant about it. Everyone wants you to be ignorant about it, especially only knowledgeable about things that serve Satan's agenda, such as they want you to know about voodoo. They want you to know about those tarot cards. They want you to know about all that spiritual darkness where they're engaging in these practices. Spiritually stalking people, spiritually monitoring, engaging what is spiritually attacking your mind so that they can diagnose you, speak curses over you. Because it's spiritually ignorant about the spiritual realm. All right. And you're vulnerable. You succumb to it, especially when you are not covered, when you are not in relationship with Christ Jesus, when he is not your Lord and Savior, when you are not covered by the blood of Christ. It is literally saving your mind and also saving your life. That's my testimony. And the demon possessed that are monitoring me are obsessed with what it is that I'm doing, including in the sleep state. That's how obsessed they are. And as Satan, again, that sits around and studies God's workmanship. This is what they do to animals. God created everything. God created the animals. God created the environment. This demonic imitation of the natural environment, the fake sun. This is the work of Satan. This engineered light that's covering everything. This is pursuant to a demonic system of surveillance because everyone is being studied. You need to understand that. And everyone is also under surveillance on communication devices. And people like myself, the entity sought to sacrifice as though then they were going to suck and siphon out like spiritual vampires, my spiritual abilities, these are demons who are actually mentally ill. Satan is just using them. Satan is just using them while they engage in it. If they die in sin, they're going straight to hell. All the people of the state, as legally referring to them, all these people who are demon possessed that Satan is using and deceiving. If they died today, they're going straight to hell. Outside of repentance, outside of coming to Christ, they're going straight to hell. They're deceived. It was never going to work. And Satan, who is a spirit, knows that he's using these people for his own purposes, because Satan's purpose is to, at the least, to engage in what is at least creating an offense. In other words, just being an annoying harasser while he cannot stop what God is doing in my life. You can't take spiritual gifts that are God-given. He knows that you cannot penetrate my mind state, meaning you're not changing my mind. I'm not scared of Satan. You're not going to intimidate me. You're not going to control how I speak. You're not controlling any of that. But this is an entity that is hostile to that threat to the kingdom of darkness. This is relevant to the entity that is demon possessed, that is the state that is monitoring me, including in my sleep. Now, the truth of everything that I'm speaking is already supported by the evidence that is the P.O.C, the pattern of conduct. A federal group stalking and monitoring, a system of surveillance that is underway in the United States of America. I'm in California. The entity is engaged in this ongoing obsessive system pursuant to what is entirely demonic. It is requiring the resume of someone who is demon possessed, not just a sinner, someone who is demon possessed. That's what's stalking with light. That's what's stalking with amplified noise. That's what's monitoring genitalias. The demon possessed. And they're in position of government. They fill the city of Ontario. They fill the state government and the federal government. Jason Isaac Fields in particular, this is a delusional psychopath. This is somebody whose mental illness is very much a threat. And I am documenting very thoroughly because I will be prosecuting the government that is both suppressing my evidence in real time while still engaging in an ongoing obsessive endeavor, trying to and obsessively consumed with studying me, psychologically attacking me, spiritually attacking, gang stalking, which is, again, psychological torture. So that's what I mean by psychologically attacking. They're still gang stalking. The entity never anticipated and never desires. Let me be clear. What I've exposed, this is the absolute worst thing for the government that never wanted to be exposed. As far as Satan is concerned, he has already lost. This is spiritual warfare. Satan has already lost. This is where we're at. So you have what is Satan, that is a liar, that is only a concerned with not reality, because he knows what he knows what the reality is. He knows what's going to happen, what is inevitable, what God has already decreed. And I have already spoken about how this is going to end. The entity that is gang stalking and has already been exposed is still targeting. Is still engaged in obsessively studying and monitoring me in the way in which I'm expounding upon in this podcast right now, including federal stalking, monitoring on my devices, turning off my headphones while I'm in the sleep state, and then while monitoring, aware of the moment that I wake up, turning my headphones back on. That's very disturbing. That's very sick. It's very demonic. The demons that are sitting around obsessed with me and studying me. They're the same ones that are also, again, monitoring my genitalia. To have your mother engaging in that, that's a demon-possessed person, not an actual mother. What you hear talking to me in the background, what you hear that I am very civil to, when this demon manifests, I'm not going to stop documenting her. I'm not going to stop prosecuting her. That's Satan. It's going to be unstable. That's a spirit. Period. I'm not going to treat it differently. Satan is not going to intimidate me or try to harass me into silence. That's not going to work. You've witnessed Satan using the police trying to do that. You've witnessed Satan using my family members trying to do that. You've witnessed Satan trying to use strangers, people that I never met, trying to do the exact same thing. It's the same spirit. It is the P.O.C. of gang stalking, but this is a spirit that wants to try to harass me and exercise authority that Satan doesn't have it. Satan does not have it in the spirit nor in the physical, as I'm literally prosecuting the government for federal group stalking and monitoring, which is demonic. The entity that's doing so, however, has already lost in its endeavor and is still engaging in that, and I'm going to prosecute for that. I'm going to prosecute for that. Not only the entity that is gang stalking, but then when the government is proven to be engaging in this inhumane and unconstitutional system, the entity is then suppressing the evidence and will at some point in the future state that it was an investigation. It is not an investigation. It is posing the same exact unlawful threat while increasing the threat of my evidence that is protecting the stalker, protecting the government that's not slowing down and targeting me, while I'm still subject to even targeting, again, remember the spiritual aspect, which is gang stalking by those who are claiming to be engaged in an investigation. Those that have been engaged in gang stalking at the outset of the investigation that I initiated in 2018. Those that are still gang stalking relevant position with the same exact co-defendant, the people of the state and the state of California. This is the federal government's engagement in that P.O.C. There's nothing changed. The entity that is gang stalking, the same demons are now going to be labeling themselves as the investigators. I'm going to prosecute for that. It is unprecedented public corruption, and it is supporting what it is that I've been stating from the beginning, which is going to be the case. Demons such as Jason Isaac Fields, this is sick behavior, and it is state action. Monitoring me, including in my sleep, that's an unprecedented threat. Because there is no rational basis for that level of interest and intrigue and violation of privacy. Why are you so consumed with me? Why? That's a threat. That makes no sense. You're not my ex-boyfriend. I've never had any relationship with you, the entity that is gang stalking as the state. You're not conducting any legitimate investigation. The federal government knows that I'm being gang stalked. The federal government is gang stalking. Moreover, the federal government has been sitting back observing me document the state. Both fascinated and also hostile, because these are demons. And it is under all circumstances, whether you're clapping for the target individual, you're monitoring and gang stalking, or whether you're sitting back trying to throw traps out, trying to trip up the targeted individual. And the one who walks with Christ Jesus, you're not successful in that. But nonetheless, I'm just speaking to, it doesn't matter whether they're fans or whether they're vowed enemies. It is the same P.O.C. It's unlawful by the state. And you're not investigating what you are a part of. And the entity knows what I am subject to. And the entity has been, these are the same ones that have been gang stalking while they were having sex with each other. They're having sex with Tracy Banks. You know exactly what she's doing. You know what it is that you've participated in. You know how it is impossible to flip those facts, which relied on your criminal and corrupt conduct as a government actor, and now you want to label yourself as an investigator, and that's not going to happen. Especially while I am clearly and intentionally and deliberately vocalizing in real time the same exact threat that has not, under any circumstances, been minimized, reduced, changed. In fact, the threat is exacerbated because my evidence, which serves to literally protect my own safety, which is necessary when the government is the stalker, the kidnapper, the one that is engaged in what is that sexual violence. Exposure, wide publication of it is necessary, absolutely necessary, which third parties like YouTube are also aware of, and that's why they're engaging in what is facilitation. The entities that's engaging in that is going to be prosecuted for it. So this is the government that's both gang stalking and then continuously gang stalking after already having been defeated in that ongoing criminal endeavor, and now just suppressing the evidence while still just gang stalking, just still doing it. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's clear. This has been the case. I've been documenting since 2018. There's no legitimate investigation. It shall be the admission of those who are going to federal prison. Jason Isaac Fields is not only someone whose name I know, I have stated before, and I'm going to state it again. Any gang stalking law enforcement that I have documented, you're subject to federal prison. That's not different for federal agencies. That's not different for any federal actor. The entity that's gang stalking, and I know your name, meaning you used your personal relationship association to target me in furtherance of murder and kidnapping and criminal defamation. You're going to federal prison. Period. And I also want to be clear, demons, corrupt actors, psychopaths, very mentally deranged, very highly deceived by Satan, and in analyzing the behavior of this deceived person, who is again under a Jezebel spirit and a Pharaoh spirit. This is demonic, sexually perverted, and also this impunity. This is relevant to demon possession, and these are the spirits that are using this particular person, who will never be in my presence, and the federal government will be prosecuted for all of the ways that I continuously document where the government is threatening my life. Having such a documented terrorist in my presence is an unprecedented and unlawful threat. The government is monitoring the evidence, suppressing the evidence, and is intentionally threatening in such manners where you have included that in the documentation. Okay, the entity is engaging in this, and any such documented terrorist, such as Jason Isaac Fields, he is subject to federal prison. That's what the evidence requires. And I also want to be clear, relevant to that sort of provision of justice, this is somebody that is also necessarily to be restrained with federal orders, never permitting someone like Tracy Banks, someone like Jason Isaac Fields to ever be in my presence outside of what is being subject to an immediate arrest and federal prison. Because this is not, again, some superior court subject matter that's in the court with regard to ordinary stalking. This is gang stalking committed by the government. This is upon domestic terrorism. You're going to federal prison. You're not just going to the county jail. Okay, and that is, again, requiring what is a prosecution that is capable of providing what are the necessary instruments under the law. This has never been exposed before. It's never been prosecuted before. The government that's engaged in an ongoing demonic and entirely unethical and criminal campaign to conceal it from ever being exposed is engaging in what is that pattern of conduct that requires the creation of such laws and instruments in order to protect the rights of that American citizen that survives domestic terrorism in the United States in the way in which I have. Okay, so I want to be clear. The entity is keeping engineer light. You're going to listen to the video that is documented after I wake up at 2:42 p.m. This is documentation of the entity obsessively monitoring me in the sleep state. In the same apartment where the fake sun remains, as you know, from sunrise until sunset. And that's where the fake sun remains as I am waking up, and the entity that is monitoring on communication devices is obsessed, which you know because they're in the specific environment where I'm detailing the means whereby that obsession is underway. Monitoring me in my sleep, turning off headphones while I'm in that sleep state, monitoring while I then wake up and turning my headphones back on in order that I would not be aware of the fact that the demons are so obsessed with when I fall asleep and when I wake up, turning on and off my devices and the headphones that I'm using on my devices. You need to understand that this is the reality of Tracy Banks' obsession with me when she is gang stalking while, again, wanting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. She doesn't appear nonchalant. This is a psychopath and a delusional one. No one is ever forgetful. Only the demons are forgetful of evidence. And you know why the demon possessed are forgetful of the evidence? Because they are delusional psychopaths who listen to the lying demons in their minds. They're always focused on stalking me and not mindful of what is already on the record. They are the only ones who are forgetful of what's on the record. She does not appear nonchalant. She doesn't appear like she's minding her business, like she's consumed in a phone call or consumed with putting something in the microwave or getting food out the refrigerator or emptying the garbage. Everything else that she's using while she's pacing and engineer light under the fake sun with the demons that are monitoring at Woodside in the city of Ontario, a whole government operation. You're looking at a psychopath who is gang stalking her own daughter. Very, very sick. People that she's had sex with are obsessed with me in the same way. Very, very sick, incestuous, perverted. People that will never actually have any connection to me. And this is why I'm also protecting myself and documenting all the ways in which the entity is targeting, which is proven through the evidence of what is the P.O.C. in the specific environment. So again, that is the case. The entity that is gang stalking is doing so in a manner. This sick behavior is state action. It is underway by the demonic entity that is also the public entity that is as one focused on me, which is evident in the specific environment, such as the fake sun remaining over me all day at one apartment building. And it is also underway by the dangerous and perverted demon who is Jason Isaac Fields, who is no legitimate law enforcement actor. This is somebody that's engaged in federal group stalking, monitoring and facilitating it, enabling it, prolonging it, continuing it with the same exact co-defendants, the same exact people of the state. Okay, no legitimate investigation is underway. And this person, Jason Isaac Fields in particular, poses an unprecedented threat based on his ongoing gang stalking that this corrupt actor refers to as an investigation while he engages in and facilitates the identical gang stalking conduct with the state that has remained underway since the inception of documentation, which is in 2018. When Fields was gang stalking in the same exact manner, and he currently in the same exact manner that he currently is, and in a malicious manner that's not different than the psychopath Tracy Banks. If you want to get to the names of the people of the state, it's not different than what Woodside Senior Apartments is engaging in. It's not different than what this gang stalking mayor Paul Leon is engaging in, using all of the instrumentalities, the resources of the city of Ontario. It's not different than what the population that's coming onto the grounds of Woodside and flying over the sky space of Woodside in the specific environment where the fake sun rises and sets over units 33 through 64. This is exactly what he's been doing. This is what the federal government has been doing. And this is why, and this is what is supporting, again, that level of restraint. Not only is federal prison required, but you're talking about what is the entity that is subject to what is this prosecution and federal restraining orders to keep this inhumane, this demonic level of obsessive stalking conduct by the entity, keeping them away from me. Okay. And that's what this evidence is serving to. It is, again, this is documented at 2:42 p.m. and the following video is what follows, and with regard to the entity that is monitoring in my sleep and then monitoring my genitalia, using commercial planes to do so. Gang stalking by the people of the state that are using gibberish as a means of exposing their mental illness, because you need to understand this is not the assessment of what is somebody that would claim, oh, I'm on medication and that's why I speak unintelligible speech in relevant position under the fake sun in concert with the state. The demons are monitoring using a babbling demon under the fake sun, following me around on the sidewalk, and they're exhibiting their mental illness, because you need to understand that that's the same spirit that's using them, stalking me with audible activity. And while they want to use a babbling demon, you're understanding the shared mental illness of the demon possessed, who may speak proper, who may have a government position, who may call themselves a mayor. They may call themselves a chief of police. They may call themselves the fire chief. They call themselves someone who wants to be in law enforcement in the federal government. This is the same mental illness, and I spoke to that in the midst of that video. When you're looking at the elements of monitoring, audible activity, using a babbling demon under the fake sun in concert with the demons that are hovering over the senior citizen complex. There's no Terminal 2 or Terminal 4 takeoff. The sound of the planes is audible activity, while the entity is using the city of Ontario to monitor little old me, the genitalia between my legs, that's in this bathroom, in this apartment where the fake sun remains for the duration of the day, and where engineered light fills the apartment like it is now. The shadow of the floor lamp is stretching across the ceiling. My shadow is appearing on the same living room wall where you see multiple shadows as I open the patio glass doors. The illumination of engineered light, where the same babbling demons are pacing back and forth, and their shadows are appearing on the inside of this apartment. This is the entity that's gang stalking, and that's what Jason Isaac Fields is filled with. This psychopath will never have any lawful rights to be in my presence. He will be immediately subject to an arrest and a prosecution. And this is, again, under circumstances where this state actor is avoiding federal prison, and the facts do not support that. The facts require federal prison for gang stalkers, for domestic terrorists, such as Jason Isaac Fields. Okay, and it is currently, by the way, 4:08 p.m. The following video you are going to listen to is what's happening moments after 2:42, when the entity is engaged in federal stalking pursuant to ongoing gang stalking, monitoring me in relevant position, monitoring heavily while I'm in that sleep state. And then as I am documenting the same specific environment, as I step outside and you see the fake sun is literally inches away from where it was at 12 p.m. over the top of the front door, and it's over the tree, and you can see it clearly as I walk and the tree is literally to my right. This is, again, the entity that's gang stalking by plane, gang stalked by amplified plane activity, and also gang stalking while using a babbling demon, gang stalking by the black Civic that's in the parking lot. That's a sex offender, predators that are engaging in surveillance at an apartment complex with the elderly, who are gang stalking, and all of this attention is on my genitalia in the bathroom, and all that attention is on me while I'm sleeping. All of that manpower, all of that government time, and all of that systematic means of surveillance. People are being paid checks, salaries, to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, not legitimate use of an airport that's engaged in what is flight from the airport to a destination. Because it doesn't include hovering over G Street, flying in the direction west over Woodside Senior Apartments, where you would even hear any air traffic from the Ontario International Airport. But you have, even beyond that common sense scrutiny, you have the fake sun, where everything that's happening in that supernatural environment is the elements of monitoring, and they're monitoring my genitalia. And they used a babbling demon, which is relevant to their mental illness. In the same way that the fake sun is relevant to their mental illness, the engineer light is relevant to their mental illness, the amplified audible activity that they're stalking with is relevant to their mental illness, while they will be prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring, which is domestic terrorism, psychological torture, where Satan, who uses people, the demon possessed, are obsessively monitoring God's workmanship. You are God's workmanship, whether you know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior or not, by the way. This is a surveillance system that's underway. The entity that's trying to murder and kidnap me and sought to criminally defame me did so because of the threat that I posed, knowing that I was going to be calling demons out before I even knew. You need to understand the demons that are practicing voodoo, that are spiritually spying on you, Satan that has a degree of knowledge about who you are and the spiritual authority that you have, and some of the things that you will do in the name of Christ Jesus. This is the threat that I pose to the kingdom of darkness, that is gang stalking in California and amongst the federal government. That's why the entity is gang stalking me with the intent to murder and kidnap. You are God's workmanship, whether you know him as your Lord and Savior or not. I suggest you get into that relationship if you do not already know him in that manner. This is what the U.S. government is doing to American citizens. And this is relevant to things such as AI. This is relevant to the ways in which the entity is seeking to essentially replace the human being with what is technology that lacks a conscience, lacks an emotional capability, wanting to be God. That's Satan's whole purpose, wanting to duplicate what God has done. He can't. He wants to be God. He wants to be worshipped. He is not. He can never be, by the way. He's a creation. God created all spirits. Satan is a created being. Satan is delusional. You need to understand the spirit of mental illness comes from Satan. Contrary to what the demon-possessed, what ignorant people who want to deny the reality of God, it is to their own demise, their inability to accurately and appropriately even practice medicine while you deny your own maker. You remain ignorant in that. And this is why they're also doing harm while they're gang stalking, using the spiritual realm to target and then criminally defame while they're spiritually attacking your mind. That is the criminal misuse and abuse of the medical field by the very demons who are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's 4:13 p.m. The entity is gang stalking under the idle fake sun, which I've captured on video. This is juxtaposing what Karen Bass and the gang stalkers in the city of Los Angeles are doing, the state of California, in other words, monitoring and obsessively monitoring in the way in which I'm expounding upon. While it is remaining underway in Ontario, and this is what I'm documenting and what I'm subject to in Los Angeles. Remember, in 2024, I left Alvarado Gardens and I began traveling, going from Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles to Monrovia. I go to Pasadena. I go to Azusa. Excuse me. I go to well, I do go to Azusa. I do go to Las Vegas, Nevada. I drive from California to Nevada. And the entity has engaged in asinine conduct that I documented. It is the pattern of conduct. The entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct is obsessively consumed with studying God's workmanship. That is myself, doing so with the intent to psychologically torture, trying to defame me because the demon-possessed don't want you to hear the truth that I'm speaking about, who Satan is using, about what Satan is doing, and about the harm that it is posing to the public that is ignorant about it. That's why the entity sought to target me. And this is why Satan is using my family. Satan is using the government. Satan is using a whole population of people who are obsessed with me. You need to understand the level of darkness. It's pervasive. It's pervasive. And but for being filled with the Holy Spirit, where you are sealed off, Satan cannot consume you. Satan can't possess your vessel. You are vulnerable to it. Whether you want to realize it or not, whether you accept it or not. These demons, many of them are in darkness and didn't even know that they're demon possessed. They listen to my documentation, and then that spirit that is possessing them makes them angry about the truth that I speak. That is also a testimony to the truth that I'm speaking, that spirit that causes anger inside of them. They are demon possessed, and the entity is engaging in what is a demonic system. The entity knows who I am because you're talking about the spiritual realm. And you are aware of, and you are able to prosecute as well based on knowledge, not intuitive knowledge that I can't prove, but knowledge that is proven, that's present in an environment, the supernatural character of the environment where nothing but gang stalking is happening. They're monitoring in my sleep. That's how obsessed they are. They're monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom. Okay. And that's the significance of the documentation that I have. It is currently, by the way, 4:15 p.m. and this is 59 minutes. So I'm going on an hour. And throughout the podcast, the entity filling this apartment, like I've already documented, the shadow of the floor lamp in Tracy Banks's living room appearing stretched across the ceiling, absolutely impossible light activity, okay? That is appearing, and that impossible light activity of the floor lamp that's standing straight on the floor, but yet it is stretched vertically across the ceiling. That's understanding the demonic. That impossible light activity is a reference to the demonic spirit that is present in an environment. That's letting you know about the spiritual realm that is very much present. That's what's relevant when I'm always talking about the environment. Look at the multiple shadows. That's not the product of standing under the sun. That's not the product of a reflection of sunlight off of something else. Also not only reflecting off of, but also piercing into, even while those said objects are covered up and no way sunlight can pierce through. Sunlight does not create the shadow of the thing larger. That's a magnification character of that light. This is subject to what is a demonic system of surveillance, and the demons are monitoring in my sleep. The demons are monitoring my genitalia in private spaces. The demons are monitoring inside of this apartment, at this apartment complex, and they know exactly who I am. You're not requiring you're not relying on intuitive knowledge. You're relying on tangible evidence, speaking to the supernatural character of the stalking conduct of the demons that intended to criminally defame, while they are exhibiting actual mental illness. Because no sane, normal person would be gang stalking, and no sane, normal government actor would be participating in it, nor any agency. You're understanding that the disturbing ratio, the disturbing statistics, you're talking about a lot of people that are of the same condition. Demons that fill the city, demons that fill that police department, demons that fill that government agency, while they're acting in concert together. Every single thing is diligently and with specific detail pursuant to me. This is a whole demonic system that surrounds me. That's why I am a threat to the demons who are gang stalking. That's why they're obsessively monitoring in my sleep. And this is something that you need to know. Those of you who are listening, those who have an ear to hear and an eye to see what it is, the significance of what the Lord permitted Satan to do, not to overwhelm me, not to overcome me, but to speak to it. Because these are the times that we're in, and the demon possessed that are walking around speaking gibberish under the fake sun monitoring right now are the same ones that are carrying weapons and killing indiscriminately with that same level of impunity, of disregard of the fact that it's being exposed, of disregard of consequences, disregard of who they harm. This needs to be known now. It is currently, by the way, 4:18 p.m. And this is the same evidence that's putting demons like Jason Isaac Fields out of law enforcement permanently, that is supporting what is federal restraints. This is somebody that will never be in my presence. This is somebody that the government is using to threaten my life, safety, and well-being. If he is ever in my presence, it is the act of the state in doing so. So again, it's not going to happen, and it's not going to lawfully occur. It is 4:18 p.m. on April 24, 2025. And the following video is what is captured moments after I'm documenting and subject to what is monitoring me in my sleep state, which is very terrorizing. That's very disturbing. The fact that a whole bunch of people are that focused on you. But that's the reality of the spiritual realm. Okay. And so contrary to what you are told is the focal point of everyone else and what you should be focused on in life, the spiritual realm is very real. And there is an ongoing agenda that Satan has, in contrary to what even you may be deceived into thinking that it's all about Satan and what Satan is doing, and it's not. This is a testimony to the reality of Christ Jesus and his return. And Satan is desperate. Satan knows that he has a limited amount of time. Satan is deceiving as many people and using as many people as he possibly can. And he is going to take as many people with him to the pit of hell. Where those who do not repent, those who refuse to, in the same way you're seeing them still gang stalking, they've already lost, they're being prosecuted. No corrupt government that's engaging in suppressing my evidence is avoiding that. They're going to be faced with enhanced means of a prosecution, period. But this is a spirit. Satan is not avoiding what is an inevitable demise. Satan knows exactly what's happening. Christ is coming back, and he knows where he's headed. This is speaking to the reality about where we are in history. As I am subject to it, and I am speaking and testifying to it for the benefit of others, because I'm being delivered from this, and I'm speaking about it because that's what I do. I despise corruption. I despise people who are being bullied. In other words, I despise it. I despise hypocrites. I despise cowards who want to, on one hand, they present themselves when they think that they can get away with it, when they think that no one can stand against it, that you're strong and powerful. But then when it's resisted and when you find out how weak you are and how defeated you were the whole time, by the way, then you want to then pivot and change. No. Keep that same energy, because I'm going to prosecute you and I'm going to expose the demons that they all are. That's what I despise. That's what I despise. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. Okay. Now, Christ Jesus loves the person he created, but he hates the sin. And you have what is a spirit that's using a vast amount of people. And it is a testimony of Christ Jesus, while this vast amount of people are being defeated altogether. Altogether. All right. And no act of public corruption, no act of obstruction of justice is going to stop that. It's certainly not going to silence it, but it's not going to stop it. All right. It is currently, again, 4:21 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the fake sun remains. And like I documented in Los Angeles at this time of year, the entity is keeping a fake sun from sunrise until sunset in Los Angeles, while you hear a jabbering, blabbing demon that's stalking under the fake sun with the Ontario International Airport. Paul Leon's being removed from office. While Engineer Light fills the apartment, Paul Leon is being removed from office. While the people of the state are gang stalking and monitoring a woman in a bathroom when they're stalking together as an apartment complex and as a city, Paul Leon is being removed from office. All right, this is an exposed sex offender and a domestic terrorist that is facilitating it and has been doing so, I want to be clear, for 20 years. Paul Leon is long overdue. And this is, again, the federal government's handiwork. The federal government is monitoring American citizens throughout the United States. Throughout the United States. While demons use literally the barking dogs, they're doing it under a fake sun, obsessively consumed with me. These are the same demons that are losing custody of their kids. They're going to prison. They're living under a fake sun that's here for 11 hours so that they can maintain noise activity while they listen to me sleep, while they monitor my genitalia in the bathroom, while they listen to me eat, monitor every time that I blink and every word that I'm uttering and everything that I publish on the venue of the internet. They are all being prosecuted as the psychopaths, actually, that they are. Okay, it is, again, 4:22 p.m. under the fake sun that's at Woodside Senior Apartments, and this is relevant evidence regarding what is already on the record happening in Los Angeles at the same time of year, revealing that supernatural character of the P.O.C, where indeed the demon-possessed are engaging in what is monitoring, which is inhumane and unconstitutional state action that a civilian population that is also demon-possessed is practicing obsessively. P.O.C. That's crossing paths. And so is and that's amplification. That's impossible light. And this is the fake sun. And this is the product of bathroom monitoring. Those are the demons that are residing this entire building. They're engaging in what is pacing around while monitoring is happening, while I'm physically indisposed, a sex offender stalking in the parking lot where the fake sun remains over the same sidewalk, where they're repeatedly crossing paths to monitor communication devices and engineered light. The same psychopath you see gang stalking with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department at 12 o'clock in the afternoon is crossing path again and is also monitoring my genitalia, which is government conduct. Okay, gang stalking, school bus driving, demons that are flying commercial planes, working for the Ontario police, gang stalking with regard to the federal government and the people of the state who are monitoring. I want to be clear, Tracy Banks is gang stalking right now. And you have the entity that is engaging in that. And these are sex offenders that are under a light source that remains over the apartment building all day long. And the entity is flying over the apartment building while my panties are down, while I'm physically indisposed. And they are receiving government assistance while they're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is sexually perverted and demonic. All right. They are monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom. They're also monitoring the devices that I use. They're monitoring me in my sleep. This is not only government conduct that's going to be prosecuted. This is why government officials like Jason Isaac Fields, who is a very delusional, sexually perverted and demented gang stalker, he's losing his job. This is what the elderly are engaging in. This is activity creation. This person's not crazy. This person's demon possessed. That's activity creation under the fake sun. And this is demonic. Jason Isaac Fields is losing his job. He's a demon. He's obsessed with me. His sex with Tracy Banks is an outward demonstration of his obsession with me. And he is still gang stalking. This is the fake sun that is present at what is 3:08 p.m. And you're mindful of what AVANATH Capital Management is engaged in. You're looking at engineered light that's underneath the parking structure while the demon's creating audible activity. And this is not different from the demons that are sitting in plain view. 6GBB 673. Monitoring. In relevant position while my panties are down in this building right here. The same building where the fake sun is rising at 7 in the morning. And this is what Satan does, demons do when they get desperate, when they're fearful of what it is that you're documenting. Communication device Title 18, both of these are sex offenders of the male gender, okay? Gang stalking amongst engineered light with the city of Ontario, with the population of demons who are sex offenders, receiving government assistance, is engaged in demonic behavior, which is entirely monitoring. This demon-possessed person knows exactly who I am and what she's doing. She's monitoring. It's demon possession. Okay? This is sexual perversion. This is mental illness by the entity. Watch the demons show you how mentally sick they are. Because this is mental illness of a psychopath, not somebody that's speaking gibberish that doesn't know what they're doing. She's monitoring. And she's doing so on behalf of the demons that are in Unit 41 under the fake sun that engage in what is conducting inspections.
AVANATH employees are gang stalking with the demon that's under the fake sun in relevant position, creating light activity and audible activity, using anything. Replace this with helicopter activity, replace this with the Ontario Fire Department using sirens, replace this with demons that are pacing on Vine Avenue, monitoring together, because it's the same P.O.C. And it's happening in the environment where I'm walking outside to show you what is evidence of bathroom monitoring. All these sex offenders are not avoiding prison, even though the federal government is currently facilitating federal group stalking and monitoring, simultaneously suppressing my evidence of it, while I'm still subject to the same sexual violence as an entity, the same threat by the entity that is monitoring the evidence as it's published online. This is why the entity is going to be punished in the ways in which I've already spoken of, but the entity is also going to be punished for and prosecuted for the ongoing obsessive endeavor, the campaign to obstruct justice. And this is why sex offenders like Jason Isaac Fields are definitely losing their job. This gibberish is the behavior of the demon possessed, and they all share this condition. They all speak when Satan tells them. They all move as Satan tells them. It's demon possession. Okay? This is P.O.C. under the fake sun, which has nothing to do with, you saw the engineer light that caused my shadow to peer through what is closed blind on the ceiling up here on the inside of the apartment. This is demon possession. Okay? This is P.O.C. And everybody in units 33 through 64 are monitoring in this very peculiar and demented manner, which reflects their mental illness. They're going to be prosecuted. This is the mental illness that Jason Isaac Fields suffered from, demon possession. These are the demons that are obsessively monitoring me even in my sleep. I get up, I pull my panties down to relieve myself. The entity is flying planes over the venue. The fake sun is still over the venue. This is the pattern of conduct. This is where it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It has gone nowhere. It's right here. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in what is sexual violence and pulls out a gibbering, jabbering, babbling demon to monitor. But don't forget, because this is what the Ontario Police Department represents. This is who the Ontario Police Department shares the mental illness condition with. That's what they're showing you, how sick they are and why they're going to be disbanded, why Jason Isaac Fields is being removed from his position and he belongs in federal prison. Okay, this is P.O.C. Tracy Banks has not been gang stalking by herself. She is not mentally ill alone. She is engaging in this P.O.C. with the state of California, the facilitation of the federal government, who is simultaneously suppressing evidence about its inhumane and unconstitutional system while still gang stalking. You're not going to provide some sort of superficial appearance of justice while trying to conceal it. I'm going to prosecute for that as well. All right, this is psychological torture and domestic terrorism that the gang stalking mayor Paul Leon is being removed from office for. This is P.O.C. 3:12 p.m. While you see the fake sun over the same door, this is where it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, while the engineer light is creating the magnified size of my hand here. This is the same exact light activity that's happening at 7:21 in the morning, the same light activity that's happening as you saw this afternoon after 12 o'clock, the same light activity that remains while you're opening up the same door, and you have what is shade out here. This is shade. This is not concentrated light. You have impossible light activity that's on the inside, traveling up, creating this fan of light. This is not sunlight. None of that is sunlight, while a demon is gibbering, jabbering in engineer light she's monitoring. And that is the act of desperate demons, by the way, who want to be a distraction, but it's not a distraction. You're witnessing mental illness. While they show you somebody that's speaking gibberish, they're exposing their mental illness. While they walk silently by under the fake sun, flying in the sky space in a commercial plane under the fake sun, they're showing you their mental illness. Gang stalking. The product of psychopaths who are obsessively consumed with one person, that is God's creation, all right, very obsessed, gang stalking and monitoring my genitalia. That's an unprecedented sex offense that the state and the federal government are going to be prosecuted for. This is impossible light while you heard a demon engaging in what is creating gibberish, which is audible activity in relevant position. None of this is the product of sunlight, and none of this coexists what the Ontario International Airport is flying in, monitoring, while the entity is keeping a fake sun in Los Angeles, okay? This is a demon that's going on ahead and using her body as a means of patrolling and as a means of gibberish, audible activity, monitoring. And this is as I step outside, understand the ongoing threat, the national security threat, while you're looking at demons that aren't right now carrying weapons on their persons, going around indiscriminately harming people. This is, again, the future prospects with regard to the psychopaths who are demon-possessed, gang stalking by sponsorship by the government that's gang stalking as well, who are engaging in what is ongoing sexually violent, psychologically harmful, and dangerous terrorism
of an American citizen, myself was aware of it. All you need to understand in order to appreciate the danger that it poses to you in the United States, you're placing weapons in the hands of these demons who are gang stalking today, and understanding the threat that is posed to American citizens in my position, who are not demon possessed, who will not submit to Satan, who will expose public corruption, and the threat that is posed to you. It's a national security threat. Jason Isaac Fields is subject to federal prison. Tracy Banks belongs in a mental asylum. Okay, you're not removing the ongoing threat, and this is the evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring. There's no legitimate investigation. The entity is obsessively monitoring and simultaneously suppressing evidence on facilitating venues such as YouTube. This is a part of the prosecution. They are not actually going to avoid justice. I'm going to prosecute for the ongoing effort to obstruct justice, which is also why Jason Isaac Fields and any other federal agent aiding and facilitating this attempt to avoid being exposed, they're going to prison. They're removed from law enforcement permanently. This is P.O.C. It is currently 3:15 p.m. Alrighty, the video that you just listened to is all relevant to the comprehensive prosecution of the state of California, and you are mindful of the documentation that I captured regarding AVANATH Capital Management, a third party, a gang stalker engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture, gang stalking an occupant at his apartment building, at the apartment building where they are maintaining a commercial means of the system of domestic terrorism and psychological torture in Ontario, in concert with the city of Ontario, and doing so while referring to it as an inspection. This is again the psychopathic conduct that is occurring under the guise of what is corruption, while the entity is referring to laws that are not in existence to facilitate federal group stalking and monitoring and profiting of it. The entity is conducting a quote-unquote inspection, and they know exactly what's going on in the apartment. They know who's inside of the apartment. They know everything that's going on in the apartment while they're monitoring me in the apartment. And then the city of Ontario and AVANATH Capital Management post a notice about a quote-unquote inspection on April 25th, 2025. This is the basis of understanding what malice looks like. And also when you're prosecuting it, you're getting to that. That's the public corruption prosecution. But this is the psychopathic behavioral pattern of an entity that engages in, oh, we need to inspect, and you're monitoring my sleep, my genitalia, everything that I'm doing in the apartment. They're psychopaths. Okay, but this is again how the entity, the state, the government, the civilian population, corrupt businesses are engaging in the pattern of conduct. And these are the laughable means of exposing why and how you're going to prosecute third parties like AVANATH. Okay, it's also an unlawful threat. So while the city of Ontario is coming into the presence, they're gang stalking using pilots of the Ontario International Airport, gang stalking using the police department and the fire department. They're gang stalking with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They're gang stalking with sex offenders, predators that are just sitting in their vehicles in the parking lot that don't even live here. Not that it's better that they live here gang stalking, but they come onto the grounds to share in what is monitoring, celebrating my nudity in the bathroom together while they're monitoring together, and then they're going to come in and call it an inspection. Those are the ones that are subject to federal prison. That's an intolerable threat. So you're going to prosecute the stalker for all of the unprecedented levels of violating someone's rights, and then being in their face like you're just going to call it something else and everyone's just going to cooperate with that. This is again the entity that's engaged in all manner of public corruption. You're going to prosecute for every aspect of that. Okay, this is absurd with the level of corruption, and they're monitoring everything about themselves that I publish while simultaneously suppressing it. That's when you get to demons like Jason Isaac Fields who are losing their job, who will never be anything released from what are federal orders to remain away from me for the rest of his natural life or go back to prison. Okay, the entity is engaged in this POC and is doing so with impunity, and it's relevant with regard to that POC and the fake sun that you see in images after 4 p.m. 4 hours earlier, it was in its zenith over the top of my head. That is evidence, hard evidence, again documented, of what is non-movement, where the city of Ontario and AVANATH at Woodside is gang stalking. You're not conducting an investigation, gaining any information that you don't already know about, so you're putting it on paper, maliciously engaging in the POC, engaging in what is corrupt business practices. That's why AVANATH is going to be removed from participation in the federal government programs that they're referencing as the means whereby they need to enter the apartment. They're abusing this, and so are the gang stalking residents that need government assistance to even pay their rent while they're gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's relevant to the video that you just listened to. All right. And this is, again, you'll look at the evidence that's published onto the Google Drive, because YouTube, a third-party facilitating venue, only has videos uploaded. The YouTube channel is the P.O.C. The P.O.C. website is accessible at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, where every picture and screenshot and image is uploaded. And it also maintains the podcast where you can listen to it, because YouTube is a third-party facilitating venue where also my podcast is not published. YouTube is currently, because that's not necessarily going to remain the case, but YouTube is currently one of the largest platforms. I want to say the largest platform for podcasting as it stands right now. So it's also, relevant to what is a means of suppressing evidence. So you will be less capable of finding the evidence, exposing the federal government and the state government in real time about what it's engaging in, still doing so against me, while trying to essentially put a muzzle over my head, over my mouth, while still targeting me in furtherance of murder and psychological torture. Okay, so that's what's going on while the entity is concealing my podcast, concealing my, but I maintain a playlist because you can put it in video form and it's still on my YouTube channel, but it is still an unlawful violation that YouTube is liable for, because the podcast is another means of exposure. So you have to be aware of my channel in order to find what is my video documentation, including my podcast, which I have uploaded in a form of a playlist. But the podcast is a separate means where you can access it if you just look up the name of it. But like I said, YouTube is not the only, and it's not the best platform. It's not. Much more organized, including, even though it's a third party, but is Amazon's website and Spotify's website. But again, it's relevant to the entity that's seeking to obstruct justice. So I just want to point that out. But I am using everything that I have with regard to publishing. And all I'm doing is documenting how the entity seeks to obstruct justice and sought to obstruct justice the entire time while still gang stalking. This is all relevant to prosecuting AVANATH, who is a third party, a well-documented and established gang stalker and terrorist and sex offender, and then doing so with the city of Ontario, the two parties that are conducting a quote-unquote inspection, which is an admission I'm going to use against the entity that I will be prosecuting. All right, it's 4:32 p.m. P.O.C. Alrighty, the video that you just listened to is all relevant to the comprehensive prosecution of the state of California, and you are mindful of the documentation that I capture regarding AVANATH Capital Management, a third party, a gang stalker engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture, gang stalking an occupant at his apartment building, at the apartment building where they are maintaining a commercial means of the system of domestic terrorism and psychological torture in Ontario, in concert with the city of Ontario, and doing so while referring to it as an inspection. This is, again, the psychopathic conduct that is occurring under the guise of what is corruption, while the entity is referring to laws that are not in existence to facilitate federal group stalking, monitoring, and profiting of it. The entity is conducting a quote-unquote inspection, and they know exactly what's going on in the apartment. They know who's inside of the apartment. They know everything that's going on in the apartment while they're monitoring me in the apartment. And then the city of Ontario and AVANATH Capital Management post a notice about a quote-unquote inspection on April 25th, 2025. This is the basis of understanding what malice looks like. And also, when you're prosecuting it, you're getting to that. That's the public corruption prosecution. But this is the psychopathic behavioral pattern of an entity that engages in, oh, we need to inspect, and you're monitoring my sleep, my genitalia, everything that I'm doing in the apartment. They're psychopaths. Okay, but this is, again, how the entity, the state, the government, the civilian population, corrupt businesses are engaging in the pattern of conduct. And these are the laughable means of exposing why and how you're going to prosecute third parties like AVANATH. Okay, it's also an unlawful threat. So while the city of Ontario is coming into the presence, they're gang stalking using pilots of the Ontario International Airport, gang stalking using the police department and the fire department. They're gang stalking with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They're gang stalking with sex offenders, predators that are just sitting in their vehicles in the parking lot that don't even live here. Not that it's better that they live here gang stalking, but they come onto the grounds to share in what is monitoring, celebrating my nudity in the bathroom together while they're monitoring together, and then they're going to come in and call it an inspection. Those are the ones that are subject to federal prison. That's an intolerable threat. So you're going to prosecute the stalker for all of the unprecedented levels of violating someone's rights, and then being in their face like you're just going to call it something else and everyone's just going to cooperate with that. This is, again, the entity that's engaged in all manner of public corruption. You're going to prosecute for every aspect of that. Okay, this is absurd with the level of corruption, and they're monitoring everything about themselves that I publish while simultaneously suppressing it. That's when you get to demons like Jason Isaac Fields who are losing their job, who will never be anything released from what are federal orders to remain away from me for the rest of his natural life or go back to prison. Okay, the entity is engaged in this P.O.C. and is doing so with impunity, and it's relevant with regard to that P.O.C. and the fake sun that you see in images after 4 p.m. 4 hours earlier, it was in its zenith over the top of my head. That is evidence, hard evidence, again documented, of what is non-movement, where the city of Ontario and AVANATH at Woodside is gang stalking. You're not conducting an investigation, gaining any information that you don't already know about, so you're putting it on paper, maliciously engaging in the P.O.C., engaging in what is corrupt business practices. That's why AVANATH is going to be removed from participation in the federal government programs that they're referencing as the means whereby they need to enter the apartment. They're abusing this, and so are the gang stalking residents that need government assistance to even pay their rent while they're gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's relevant to the video that you just listened to. All right. And this is, again, you'll look at the evidence that's published onto the Google Drive, because YouTube, a third-party facilitating venue, only has videos uploaded. The YouTube channel is the P.O.C. The P.O.C. website is accessible at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, where every picture and screenshot and image is uploaded. And it also maintains the podcast where you can listen to it, because YouTube is a third-party facilitating venue where also my podcast is not published. YouTube is currently, because that's not necessarily going to remain the case, but YouTube is currently one of the largest platforms. I want to say the largest platform for podcasting as it stands right now. So it's also, relevant to what is a means of suppressing evidence. So you will be less capable of finding the evidence, exposing the federal government and the state government in real time about what it's engaging in, still doing so against me, while trying to essentially put a muzzle over my head, over my mouth, while still targeting me in furtherance of murder and psychological torture. Okay, so that's what's going on while the entity is concealing my podcast, concealing my, but I maintain a playlist because you can put it in video form and it's still on my YouTube channel, but it is still an unlawful violation that YouTube is liable for, because the podcast is another means of exposure. So you have to be aware of my channel in order to find what is my video documentation, including my podcast, which I have uploaded in a form of a playlist. But the podcast is a separate means where you can access it if you just look up the name of it. But like I said, YouTube is not the only, and it's not the best platform. It's not. Much more organized, including, even though it's a third party, but is Amazon's website and Spotify's website. But again, it's relevant to the entity that's seeking to obstruct justice. So I just want to point that out. But I am using everything that I have with regard to publishing. And all I'm doing is documenting how the entity seeks to obstruct justice and sought to obstruct justice the entire time while still gang stalking. This is all relevant to prosecuting AVANATH, who is a third party, a well-documented and established gang stalker and terrorist and sex offender, and then doing so with the city of Ontario, the two parties that are conducting a quote-unquote inspection, which is an admission I'm going to use against the entity that I will be prosecuting. All right, it's 4:32 p.m. P.O.C. All right, pursuant to the ongoing admitted federal offense regarding federal group stalking and monitoring that AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in with the city of Ontario, as engineered light streams across the patio glass door and inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, and it's pursuant to what is stalking with light, as I am on the venue of the internet looking at evidence that, again, on the venue, which is YouTube, which is used as a means of averting attention away from the openly exposed pattern of conduct of stalking under a fake sun and stalking with light in the way in which it's happening inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. And this is pursuant to what is federal group stalking and monitoring that is documented at state facilitating venue Estelle. And let me go ahead and read you the name of the videos where the entity is trying to avert documentation away from looking at the evidence of stalking under a fake sun at a law office, which is a documented gang stalker with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court that engaged in theft of property with the same entity, this city of Ontario. Estelle and Kennedy, a professional law corporation located at 367 North 2nd Avenue in Upland, California, 91786. This video that has had 34 views And again, the 34 views is substantial with regard to the little to zero exposure that my channel gets, because the entity that's gang stalking is suppressing the evidence of it. So they're obsessively monitoring. The entity is hostile to the documentation that it's monitoring as it's being published online. And then again, suppressing it in order that it doesn't get views, and they're obsessively monitoring everything I'm doing on the internet. Okay, it's obstruction of justice. And again, the entity is engaging in this POC while seeking to avert attention away from the evidence that I have published online. For example, and this is what I'm looking at when Engineer Light it would screen pass, excuse me, it's scanning. That's the word I'm looking for. It scans inside of Tracy Banks' apartment across the patio glass door and scans inside, like I've already documented. And this is pursuant to what it's monitoring. Monitoring me while I'm sleeping as well, monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom, monitoring me on my communication device, with simultaneity to my accessing evidence that the demons are fearful of, hostile to me, changing around while they seek to avert attention away. And by avert attention away, for example, YouTube has altered its platform whereby they have the shorts and they have the videos that are longer than 3 minutes. And the distinction between the two is where you have the ability to add on related videos, which you can see in the shorts. So where Estelle is documented, Estelle and Kimberly, a professional law corporation, they are not a professional law corporation. They are a gang stalking state actor because they use California bar licensure to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring. They're gang stalking while practicing law. They're also gang stalking with regard to the theft of property and the unlawful denial of legal relief that I'm entitled to in the criminal act committed by the state, which includes Estelle and Kimberly, a documented gang stalker in relevant position on October 27, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. The cases Erica Lorenz Spencer v. Bill and Wags, where Estelle and Kennedy, a gang stalking law office, is engaged in the pattern of conduct that's underway in the courts at the facilitating venue of the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. And I'm documenting the fake son over me while I'm at the venue of the Estelle and Kennedy law office at 367 North 2nd Avenue in Upland, California. And this is published on what is, well, I published it today early in the morning, and it is the date, the timestamp is October 27, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. And this documentation, let me look at this. It is indeed, published early this morning, April 24th. Currently has 34 views. And again, the 34 views, which is substantial for the entity that's monitoring and seeking to conceal the evidence. And so all the demons that are, again, millions of people know what I'm doing, but the entity is monitoring by keeping the viewing down. This is relevant to suppression of evidence because they are all witnessing what I'm publishing online while it's simultaneously being suppressed. And while I'm being terrorized with impossible light inside of the apartment where I am looking at the videos where evidence is used to avert. And so now I'm going to go into how YouTube is used to avert away from evidence, where you can clearly see in the video that I publish, and also using the tools that YouTube has available under any other circumstance. If I was comparing videos where you're looking at different women twerk in different ways, and you can go from video to video to video, while I am exposing the pattern of conduct of looking at the fake sun that's remaining for the duration of the day at one location, but it's at the same time over Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California, that's evidence that the entity wants to avert attention away from. And so that's where you have what are the shorts videos, because this video is 50 seconds long. So this video that's October 27, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. is 50 seconds long. So it is in the form of a short video. And in that short video, you will see the additional video that is referenced on October 9th, 2021 at 8:38 a.m., which is in Ontario, California, where the sun is not maintaining a mutual presence in the manner which you see hovering over me in the parking lot in Ontario at B&G Plaza, standing in front of what is Andy's Burgers, where demons are gang stalking, pacing under that fake sun over me, where the city of Ontario is gang stalking and the city of Upland are gang stalking. You're getting context. This isn't traffic under that fake sun that's hovering. These are demons who are pacing while engineered light moves all across the sidewalks and buildings and whatnot, and while they're driving in engineered light and not sunlight under what is not the sun as well, and could not possibly be the sun that's at the same time over Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California, as I'm referencing video that you can clearly see captioned as at the bottom of the short video. It's October 9, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. Now the entity is, as you click on this video in the shorts, it is not going to be in the form of a short video. It's in the long form, and that precludes the viewer from seeing the additional caption of the video that shows the same address, Andy's Burgers, through East Hope Boulevard in Ontario, California at the B&G Plaza, where the fake sun is at the same time both over me in Upland, California, while I'm looking at Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California. And also, which is 367 North 2nd Avenue, Upland, California. The entity is gang stalking replete with the fake sun and engineer light all over the asphalt in Upland, where demons are pacing on what is 2nd Avenue. And the entity is pacing in the parking lot of B&G Plaza at the same time, like I documented, same time of year, October 9th, 2021 at 8:31 a.m. And the entity is keeping that light source in that manner directly over me at two mutually exclusive positions. Okay, you have a larger example, even more vivid example, if your mind can't rationalize the difference between the sun hovering over B&G Plaza parking lot over my head and hovering over my head on 2nd Avenue in Upland, California. The two are not the same. The two are not coexisting. That's evidence of stalking with the fake sun. But I've documented as a matter of evidence that is insurmountable and irreconcilable while I'm living in Los Angeles and in Ontario, California, giving you another example of the exact same thing, where Estelle and Kennedy is a gang stalking law office and gang stalking with the people of the state, while it is a facilitating venue where the fake sun is over me while I'm in the presence at that venue, where it is in Upland at 8:38 a.m. and in Ontario at B&G Plaza at 8:38 a.m. on October 9th, 2021. And I'm still at this location as I documented, because you must maintain documentation in order to establish the public corruption of an entity that is gang stalking. And that's my ability to be at that same address on January 22nd, 2021 at 4:32 p.m. Where earlier in the year, when I'm standing at the same Andy's Burgers inside of the same B&G Plaza, you will see the supernatural. That is irreconcilable with what is daylight savings time. We're only giving and taking away an hour. So outside of daylight savings time, in January of 2021, the fake sun is over me at the same address it is at 8:38 a.m. when it's at the same time over me at 8:38 a.m. in Upland, California at the law office of Estelle and Kennedy, an unprofessional gang stalking law office, not a professional law corporation, where the fake sun is evidence of that. And the entity that is monitoring evidence is terrorizing with impossible light activity while I am going through such videos, exposing this and changing the videos around. These are demons that are fearful of what it is that I'm exposing about them. And they engage in more terrorism and psychological torture. The same demons that are obsessed with me when I'm sleeping, so obsessed with God's workmanship, obsessed with my abilities, obsessed with what it is that I tell about them, the fact that they're demons, the fact that they're stalking, the fact that they're obsessed, the fact that they're sex offenders, the fact that you have information available to you now which would inform you and protect your safety and also your well-being, because demons are engaged in spiritually attacking your mind. Okay, the entity is engaging in stalking with light, and this is the same entity that is quote unquote conducting an inspection while they are monitoring inside of the apartment. Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. She's the one that's posting this notice, while AVANATH is a gang stalking terrorist, engaging in psychological torture, engaging in federal stalking, monitoring and seeking to obstruct justice while simultaneously suppressing evidence about what it knows very well that I am publishing online about everything that it is indeed doing. That's why they're interested in suppressing my evidence. That's why they're terrorizing with impossible light activity, which is also an established fact, also not within my imagination. And it's happening while Estelle and Kennedy is a gang stalking state actor who engaged in theft of my Toyota Camry, where the entity stole my vehicle via the city of Ontario that is conducting an inspection inside of this apartment where it's still engaged in monitoring to date. And using demonic tools such as stalking with light. As I review the evidence of, again, you will look at it yourself, because the entity is using the aversion and a tactic of averting from videos that should be accessible through the shorts, as they provide what are related videos that you can include so that you can clearly see it. But where you are looking at it on YouTube, as I'm looking at it, it's not giving you the short form of the video. It's giving the long form version videos in the same format as it would be, for example, if it was over 3 minutes. And that is creating what is an impossibility for you to see that fake sun over the same Andy's Burgers at 4:32 p.m. But you can access that video because it's on January 22nd, 2021 at 4:32 p.m. And that is where you will see the evidence that the demons are fearful of you seeing. And then they engage in stalking with light conduct as I am accessing the evidence that they are all monitoring together. This is where a bunch of old people are monitoring my genitalia. This is where the city of Ontario is monitoring my genitalia, just like I documented demons that are speaking gibberish, exhibiting their mental illness while they're gang stalking. You want to pull out a blabbering demon that's speaking gibberish, they are all sharing the same mental illness of that demon that was speaking gibberish under the fake sun and engineered light. It's a reflection on them. It's not a distraction. It's also the elements of monitoring, and it is speaking to their mental illness. Paul Leon is as mentally sick as that plus 55 demon under the fake sun, gang stalking me by speaking gibberish under that light source in engineered light, while the demon knows that she's being documented. Okay, while she's speaking gibberish, that's supposed to be the superficial veneer where you think that she's oblivious to my presence and that she's just out of her wits and she is not even paying attention to me. That's, again, the superficial veneer of a malicious demon-possessed person who is gang stalking. And the specific environment is speaking to the ongoing same exact pattern of conduct. It is also speaking to, again, the malice and the illusions using and referring to things such as mental illness, which is supposed to be a facade where federal group stalking and monitoring is within only the imagination of the target individual. And contrary to that, you're looking at somebody that is supposed to be looked at as mentally ill while they're engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is underway and executed by psychopaths. Okay, so I just want to be clear, all of this propaganda in the United States regarding mental illness, when the federal group stalking and monitoring system is relying on the demonic, who are psychopaths targeting people together and wanting to falsely depict their character in doing so, that is all relevant with regard to what the entity is doing right now. As you're recalling the evidence of what the city of Ontario is doing, what AVANATH Capital Management is doing, there is no legitimate inspection. The entity is gang stalking on an ongoing basis, very fearful of the very powerful evidence that no demon can stand against, while they're suppressing it and still engaging in it. YouTube is relevant. This is another tactic that YouTube is subject to a prosecution for. All the creative ways in which you're seeking to avert attention away from clearly seeing the pattern of conduct. The videos are accordingly on October 27, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. Estelle and Kennedy, a professional law corporation, is gang stalking as I am at that address, a facilitating venue by definition, the supernatural over my head while I'm standing at that location, speaking to a citywide effort, which is criminal and demonic, where gang stalking is underway as I'm showing you a demon that's in a vehicle engaging in surveillance while demons are pacing on 2nd Avenue, and I'm standing in front of what is Estelle and Kennedy, a gang stalking law office that also engaged in stealing my vehicle using their law degrees. The criminal and malicious misuse of the legal practice of law, using your law license while you are gang stalking in doing so. The entity does the same thing when they're criminally defaming with demons like Tracy Banks, the Ontario Police Department, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the people of the state, Jason Isaac Fields. This is the same thing that they're doing. Estelle and Kennedy and did so, and it's documented. Look at Erica Lorenz Spencer v. Bill and Wags, and then refer to this video with regard to Estelle and Kennedy being a gang stalker. And you also know that they're a gang stalker because they are documented engaging in what is the theft of my vehicle by the entity in what is 2020. When the entity engaged in stealing my vehicle as a criminal means of retaliation after, again, it's all relevant to what was my civil suit brought against the state while the entity evaded service of process, criminal conduct that Thomas Garza engaged in. Okay? The entity that's still gang stalking to date and still is getting very much fearful of the truth that I speak, suppressing evidence while they are entirely and actually defeated, and engages in psychopathic things, showing how much of they are Looney Tunes in their brains when they're stalking with light. They're stalking with light. These are psychopaths. And one of those psychopaths was gang stalking and was speaking gibberish on the sidewalk. That's not somebody that's mentally ill in the way in which the entity wants to exhibit it. This is somebody that is stalking with activity, stalking with the use of her voice under the fake sun and engineered light. And the entity deliberately chose that particular demon. It's a desperate means of averting your attention away, but it's not an aversion. You're looking always at the elements. And while they chose that particular demon, she's not doing nothing other than outwardly demonstrating what is wrong in all of their minds. They're all listening to lying, babbling demons while they're obsessively stalking and monitoring me. And stalking with light inside of Tracy Banks' apartment while I'm referencing these videos. Again, look at October 22nd, 2021, 8:38 a.m. Estelle and Kennedy at 367 North 2nd Avenue in Upland, California, which is directly related to the fake sun being over me at the same time in the city of Ontario, where it's at no point in the day ever over B&G Plaza, by the way, while it's remaining over these demons that are going to prison at Woodside Senior Apartments. Just as an aside, this is evidence of stalking with under a fake sun. As I'm relating that video to what you can see on YouTube, October 9th, 2021 at 8:38 a.m., same time of year, same time of day analysis, giving greater analysis of what's happening at that same address on January 22nd at 4:32 p.m. And you will see the entity that is gang stalking at the same B&G Plaza, Andy's Burgers, and that fake sun as a matter of a duration of time, regardless of the farcical items such as daylight savings time and things that YouTube promotes, propaganda. Okay, it is propaganda. You remember, it's not just misinformation. It's misinformation that's serving a government system. It's propaganda. And YouTube is putting out false information, interfering with the federal investigation, and promoting propaganda, which is deceptive for a very specific purpose, while the fake sun documentation is being published on its platform. And it is engaging creative tactics of averting your eyes away from clearly seeing that on a video platform like YouTube, where you can clearly click on the next video, which would point you to the video captured on October 9th, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. And you should be able to click on, but you cannot because it's changing the form of the video so that you cannot ever see the video at that same address in Ontario, where the sun would never be over Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California, because the fake sun is remaining from 8:38 a.m. until what is 4:32 p.m. if you're comparing what's happening and comparing to the natural environment, that is. What is a duration of time, 4:32 p.m. and 8:38 a.m. There's no provision for the sun to go anywhere. It's remaining over the same address, which is in defiance of nature. And as I reference and access these videos online, where I'm subject to surveillance and possible light scans through Tracy Banks's apartment. It is the P.O.C. It is also where the City of Ontario and AVANATH Capital Management are not conducting any inspections. They are abusing federal laws at this HUD-regulated property, and the entity is engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring and abusing such laws to engage in what is corrupt business practices, corrupt government conduct. It's an unlawful search where federal group stalking and monitoring is underway. It's not an inspection pursuant to HUD-regulated property where you're stalking and monitoring, where you're engaging in psychological torture, where you're engaged in what is federal stalking surveillance on the venue of the internet, and then engaging in what is harassment and criminal interference with quiet enjoyment by a gang stalking property management company as you access such damning documentation about itself on the internet. That's what's relevant. I want to make sure that that's clear. I will reference these videos in the podcast. And it's also relevant to the way in which the videos are even visible to the public online. This is all relevant to, again, what is the American government that does not want you to know about. But it is available to you. I've published it. It is available online. The entity and Satan himself is failing and has failed at concealing the condition of the demon possessed, sealing the criminal conduct of the demon possessed, and I'm going to comprehensively prosecute this system of public corruption. But you need to understand that it is sealing its failure with regard to keeping that sealed, keeping it from you. Not only is it exposed to you for your information and for your consumption, because it's exactly why the entity has gone to such far extents to try to keep me silent about it. That's all the more ammunition. This is not about views and subscribes. I don't need it. I don't even have comments on the channel. I am not looking. This is not about subscription. I don't need any of that. It's good with regard to promoting the word of God that needs to get out. But this word is going to get to who it needs to get to, regardless of Satan's tactics. And that's what I also know. But you need to be aware. I'm going to prosecute with regard to obstruction of justice because the government's threatening my life. Yes, that's relevant. But it is relevant with regard to what the Lord is stating at this time. What the Lord is stating. And what Satan does not want you to know about. That is what is so absurdly desperate about the demon-possessed who are monitoring evidence that is exposing them. Exposing their corruption and exposing their demented minds. It is a threat to normal people who are ignorant about what surrounds them and who surrounds them and the harm intended. This is not to spread fear, it's to inform. You need to be advised about the reality of what's going on in this country and in the world. and the devices of the enemy. The enemy is one who is a spirit, and he uses people. Don't forget that. All right. It is currently 5:34 p.m. where Impossible Light fills Tracy Banks' apartment. And in the podcast, I'm going to reference these videos. Estelle and Kennedy, a gang stalker, on the P.O.C. website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. You will see the published act of criminal conduct, gang stalking in the courts by Estelle and Kennedy. That's engaged in federal stalking. This is, again, not responding timely to the civil case for conversion, where the entity, the people of the state, Bill and Wags, is a third party, acting under color of authority by the gang stalkers, Ontario police, who stole my car knowing very much that I'm sleeping in it. That's why they were stalking in helicopter in it day and night, which is also documented and published evidence that the entity wants to suppress, relevant to the criminal case when the entity stole my vehicle, defaced it, and then stole it, abusing laws that it has no actual authority under to do so. And then engaging what is gang stalking after I seek what I'm entitled to under the laws with regard to the courts and the rules of court in California and at the Supreme Court, where Bill and Wags did not refuse to acknowledge my court case and took it as a joke, did not timely respond within the time that you were supposed to respond to a summons, okay? And a court case initiated against you within 30 days. And in doing so, and failing to do so, the entity that's engaged in surveillance, the entity that's gang stalking me both to and from the courts, aware of everything that's submitted in the court, on the same day that I go to file that request for a timely and appropriate request that I'm fully entitled to for a default judgment. This is when the gang stalker, Estelle and Kennedy, sends an email, not coincidentally on the same day. This is the day where the entity refused to permit me to get into the court, where I'm arriving before the court closes. The gang stalkers deny me entrance into the court. And that is, again, why it is filed on November 19th as opposed to November 18th, where Estelle and Kennedy are capitalizing on that, where they're also capitalizing on the POC of federal stalking. And I'm also documenting the fact that their court, the court is a facilitating venue, and so is Estelle and Kennedy's law office a facilitating venue. They engaged in gang stalking, stole my vehicle, stole everything inside of my vehicle. Remember, it's not just the car. Everything in that vehicle that I own was stolen by this entity. That did so because I filed a civil case for federal group stalking monitoring against the state of California, which Thomas Garza, the Rancho Cucamonga the San Bernardino Superior Court, avoided service of process, evaded service of process with the same gang stalker, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. This is all documentation that's already published. It's already available. This is the city of Ontario that is gang stalking with AVANATH Capital Management, that is not conducting any state mandated or federally mandated inspection. They're engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring and abusing the laws as they exist in order to engage in it and are profiting from it. They are engaging in what is systematically engaging in domestic terrorism and psychological torture in doing so. This is the same entity that is monitoring the evidence that is very damning about it. You're not protecting any lawyers. You're not protecting any judges. You're not protecting any gang stalkers that engage in any criminal acts in the courts. Every civil action that I initiated against the state is a criminal act while the entity is gang stalking me, intentionally avoiding justice and denying me justice that I'm fully entitled to, even while they are breaking the law, because they have no jurisdiction under the laws whatsoever, while I'm enforcing my rights, exposing surveillance, and enforcing my rights regarding it. The entity that's engaging in criminal acts in the criminal justice system while gang stalking me is violating my rights in doing so. They are admissions. This is why they're subject to federal prison. This is why the federal government, people like Jason Isaac Fields, are subject to federal prison. Still gang stalking, still terrorizing me, not engaging in any legitimate investigation while the same exact POC remains underway. Evidence that's being published about the federal government is being simultaneously suppressed while the POC is permitted to continue. Understand how all of these facts, elaborate, yet at the same time very, very simple. Very, very simple. The entity is targeting. The entity is being exposed for targeting. The entity is now seeking to suppress the evidence about its exposure and is still targeting me while doing so, which is an unlawful threat. It is currently 5:39 p.m. This is happening inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, a psychopath who is never minding her business. She's not consumed with talking on the phone and having a conversation. All she's doing is obsessively monitoring me. That's it. When she returns to the apartment, that's all she's doing. And she's a psychopath that is maliciously doing it. And that demon manifests when you hear her yelling at the top of her lungs, talking about what is the substance of criminal defamation. That's when that demon is no longer hiding behind phone conversations and taking out the trash and pacing in and out of the front door and going to and from the kitchen. That's when the demon is manifesting. All right. It's 5:39 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the same pattern with regard to the aversion of evidence, where you are looking at shorts, videos on YouTube, and the function of the shorts video is your ability to look at related content. And I am using this with regard to showing where I'm at and where the time of day and the fake sun, the engineered light, stalking, whatever it is that I'm pointing out. For the most part, I'm pointing out the stalking under the fake sun documentation with regard to understanding what is gang stalking by the corrupt entity. So while I am exposing the same thing regarding the Fontana Police Department, who's gang stalking under the fake sun at 10 in the morning, and then when you're clicking on that related video in a short, and then it's taking you to a long form video, and that is, again, precluding the viewer's ability to see the related content, because I am essentially creating a chain of videos. You can look at one after another, but for this creative means of avoiding the ability to look at that chain of related content. That is a tactic with regard to obstruction. As I'm viewing this is when, again, the impossible light activity is occurring inside of the apartment. So this is exposing what is the Fontana Police Department, the documentation of stalking under the fake sun. I'm going to point out those videos in this podcast. So it's available with regard to what the entity is stalking me with light as I'm accessing this video content, that it is very fearful of, very nervous, gets very frenzied, psychotic. The demons begin acting out, stalking with light, occurring, scanning inside of Tracy's apartment. The moment that I began recognizing this pattern of seeking to avert from your ability, the public's ability, to clearly see the pattern when you are seeing the demons of the Fontana Police Department stalking under the fake sun at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at that same Fontana Police Department at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm in an entirely different city at the same time that the Fontana Police Department is gang stalking under that fake sun at 10 in the morning. That's the chain of events, the chain of related content that is that YouTube is intentionally seeking to avoid the public's ability to see. And as I access that, as I speak to it, even in real time, stalking with light at 5:42 p.m. All right, this is the video. This is, again, where no inspection is underway inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. You already know that. Linda Reyes is a documented gang stalker. The city of Ontario, AVANATH Capital Management, all the residents and the demons that even come onto the grounds, down to making a delivery, all they're doing is gang stalking. This is relevant to the admission of it. This is relevant to what is stalking with light, as the entity is obsessively consumed with what I'm doing, with what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is very important for you to pay attention to, because that's why the demons are stalking me with light, because I'm speaking the truth about what they're doing and what they want to conceal about what they're doing to you. The Fontana Police Department is already surrounded with evidence. Concealing it, trying to conceal it, suppress it on the video of the internet is not going to keep it concealed. And I'm documenting, and it's relevant for the prosecution of the entity that's gang stalking through police departments like the Ontario Police, like the Fontana Police, like the Los Angeles Police Department. And as the evidence on the video of the internet where it's published is used to avert away from your ability to what would otherwise be very easily seen as you look at video that's related in nature, as YouTube has designed its platform. However, the entity is creating ways in which to avert your ability to see that chain of related video content. And that is by design. That's purposeful. When the entity is seeking to obstruct justice and is engaging in what is terrorizing, stalking with light, stalking in the ways in which I've published, and doing so in real time at 5:42 p.m. right now, while I'm speaking about the demons who are the very heavily documented Fontana Police Department. And there's more evidence in 2021 and 2022 speaking to that. So this is nothing new. The Fontana Police Department did much more than what I'm already publishing online. If you are looking at the YouTube channel, or you are paying attention to what is the P.O.C. Website at thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, the Fontana Police Department not only gang stalking under a fake sun that's present over the Fontana Lewis Library, not Woodside Senior Apartments, never under any circumstances creating scanning light on the patio glass door inside of an apartment, framing the front door inside of Tracy Banks' apartment or anyone's apartment. None of that sunlight, nor could that possibly be the sun. It's the same pattern with regard to the gang stalker Estelle and Kennedy, the law office in Upland, California, and that is, again, being protected with this version from your ability to see clearly related content. As you can see, 2 videos where the fake sun is over me in the morning and it's still over me at the same location in the evening. This is what I'm documenting on podcasts, on video in video form, and using the shorts as a means to cut off that chain of related content. That's what I'm observing. And as I'm speaking to it, the entity is stalking with light. As I access the videos about it, this is when the entity is stalking with light. And then it's just relevant that there's no legitimate inspection going on. These are gang stalkers that I'd already documented on October 9th, 2024. That wasn't an inspection either. That is AVANATH's abuse of what is federal and state laws while they're engaging in domestic terrorism and psychological torture with impunity and malice. And that's exactly what they've been doing with impunity and malice while the entity is protecting itself, threatening my life, threatening my safety, and protecting itself. That is what is relevant with regard to the prosecution of the state and federal government. This is P.O.C. It's 5:45 p.m., April 24th, still the same day. All right, stalking with light, again, scanning across the defendant Tracy Banks's patio glass door and the defendant AVANATH Capital Management's apartment building at 5:46 p.m. as I am referencing the videos that are tied together. October 22nd, 2021 at 8:38 a.m., Estelle and Kennedy, gang stalking. That's a law office. Engaged in stealing my car and denying legal relief. Engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring the criminal misuse of a law license in doing so. In the video, which is October 9th, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. The entity is gang stalking under the fake sun while it's both over the law office in Upland of Estelle and Kennedy and over me at Andy's Burgers at the same time of year at 8:38 a.m. And it remains over what is the Andy's Burgers as I'm documenting it on October 9th, 8:38 a.m. And what is, that other video is, let's see. Bring that with October 9th. January 22nd, 2021 at 4:32 p.m. Again, putting my list together. The entity is stalking with light again inside of the apartment. Again, the defendant is Tracy Banks. The defendant is the people of the state inside of units 33 through 64. The defendant is AVANATH Capital Management. The defendant is City of Ontario. And this is, again, the federal government that is also engaged in monitoring on the venue of the internet as well, suppressing the evidence about what it is that I'm exposing about suppression efforts at the same time. P.O.C. All right, it is currently, as you can see, it's Thursday, April 24, 2025 at 6:49 p.m. This is a visual. I want to give a video and create one, and this is documentation that is providing a visual example of what it is that I'm describing regarding what is also simultaneously occurring. I'm being gang stalked in relevant position. The entity is stalking me with light, impossible light activity, light that is entirely supernaturally occurring. And this is something that which the ordinary target individual lacking evidence to prove that you're subject to such conduct around people who are targeting you in very malicious and demonic means, which is also inherently designed to psychologically torture the person who is subject to it. You are criminally defamed. It's defamation which is serving the criminal pattern of conduct in order to malign your character and falsely depict the targeted individual as one that's suffering from some mental illness, as opposed to the government being exposed for engaging in domestic terrorism and a system of psychological torture, as I have termed it, federal group stalking and monitoring. This is ongoing surveillance that's happening on the internet, and this is documentation which is exposing how YouTube is a third party. YouTube is a third party engaging in the pattern of conduct on the venue of the internet, where the United States is maintaining surveillance on the internet via all of our communication devices. As I remain subject to the system, as the entity is seeking to obstruct justice and conceal that which clearly proves that they are not only gang stalking, but they are engaging in a system of gang stalking everywhere through everyone, and the fact that it's demonic. And they are very specifically of the condition of demon possession in doing so. Okay, the entity is engaged in this, and it's occurring online. And while I'm speaking to it on the podcast, which is, again, this is my playlist maintaining the updated podcasts as I publish them, because the entity is engaged in monitoring on the internet. And this is where I am currently uploading the podcast, which is currently publishing, and I'm documenting as it changes. I have documented the entity removing the podcast. Once I render it public, as you can see, it's designated to be seen publicly. While it is uploading, all of my episodes are currently uploading, and that's going to take time. The entity has engaged in documented acts of obstruction by removing it and changing it, controlling the use of my channel, which is on a third-party facilitating venue on the internet, where the government is engaging in surveillance and suppression of evidence while it's still gang stalking me. So still trying to murder me, still trying to psychologically torture me while concealing the evidence about it on the internet. Well, they are also engaging in the following, which is the substance, the purpose of this video. I'm going to show you this is my YouTube channel where I am publishing the body of evidence against the state of California, and I am also exposing what is relevant, how the entity is engaging in what is creative means of obstruction of justice, where the video shorts, where you can see here the reference to other video related content. This is the whole purpose of what YouTube creates the platform to use, while I use it for purposes of showing you what is stalking as an entity in a specific environment. I'm showing you the difference where the entity is interfering with by manipulation of the platform to conceal what would be otherwise a very clearly shown pattern, which is also very disturbing. Evidence of a son remaining, like you're seeing at Woodside Senior Apartments, like you're seeing in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, and the entity is protecting the gang stalkers, protecting the sex offenders, protecting the demon possessed, who are out here roaming around, psychopaths on the loose, and that is not hyperbole. Gang stalking and engaging what is living their lives without an appropriate level, identifying them as ticking time bombs that are capable of engaging in any manner of harm beyond what is gang stalking me and it being concealed by the state. Okay, this is the P.O.C. on the venue of the internet, and so I selected the video. In particular, I'm talking about gang stalking by the state actor Estelle and Kennedy, and while I'm at it, let me just go ahead and show you right now. Estelle and Kennedy is a documented gang stalker, a state actor engaging what is theft of my property and the unlawful denial of justice that I am entitled to under the existing rules of the court, while the entity that's gang stalking is exercising authority it does not actually have under the law, while it's exposed as keeping me under surveillance, gang stalking me, and then as I prosecute in the court, which is nothing other than a means of documentation, because the court is not in any actual place of jurisdiction over me or over my property. Nevertheless, documentation as I prosecuted the case and exposed how the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking in the means of criminally misusing licensure. California bar members engaging in the P.O.C. in the courts. Kimberly Applewood engaged in the kidnapping of what is the pattern of conduct. Not a coincidence. She's engaged in this kidnapping, and the people of the state v. Spencer, Mary Wendy Victor 2000640. Kimberly Applewood is engaged in a kidnapping. She's also engaged in what is theft of my property. This is a criminal act that I documented while I initiated my civil case against not what is Bill and Wags. That's how the case caption, but this is a case against the people of the state, which is a case against the entity itself that stole my property, exercising fictitious authority under the law. Gang stalking by the Ontario Police Department, the city of Ontario, is underway the entire time. And the entity that is gang stalking through Danielle Katura Little, California bar number 239784. She is a gang stalker not only by criminally using her bar license to engage in what is exercising authority you do not have under the law, facilitating federal group stalking and monitoring where the entity stole my car, and then unlawfully denied relief that I am entitled to under the California rules of court, where the entity refused to respond timely, in a timely manner, to my summons and my case that I brought against it in the court. This is published on the YouTube channel. Again, this is the POC.wordpress.com. This is relevant to what is Danielle Couture Little is indeed also a gang stalker, while I'm documenting the law office itself as a facilitating venue. This is documentation where the entity seeks to protect the gang stalkers, protect the one that stole my property, and everything inside of my vehicle was stolen. All the clothes that I owned, my school degrees, my college degree, my law degree, those things that you can't replace. I can't go to another store and buy another law degree, which I earned when I walked across, even though they were gang stalking me at Whittier Law School. But that was my Juris Doctor that I earned. It was stolen by the entity. The entity stole not only my vehicle, but everything inside of my vehicle, items that I bought in Europe when I lived abroad, when I traveled abroad, items that cannot be replaced, items that I've had since I was a child, and the entity stole it. The entity engaged in what is all manner of wicked, weird conduct, worshiping Satan with it, but nonetheless, this is the entity that is gang stalking, stealing property, as Danielle Danielle Couture Little is documented engaging in, and also Danielle Couture Little's office is a facilitating venue, which is further confirmation regarding what I've already exposed about the entity that is gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments as well while I access this video documentation. This is what's relevant to this video, and on YouTube, which is a facilitating venue where the entity is engaging in the ongoing systematic suppression of evidence, the entity is engaging in what is protecting the entity. There is no legitimate investigation underway under such circumstances. There is nothing other than the pattern of conduct underway being facilitated at that. All right. So the entity is in doing so, and this is what is relevant with regard to the use of short videos, which, as you can see here, provide what is a means where you can add video content that is related. This is the whole purpose of what YouTube has created. But when I am using the platform for purposes of exposing a demonic system that's underway in the United States, which is also criminal conduct, exposing those that are masquerading as private citizens when they're actually state actors engaging in the P.O.C., that's where the entity is engaging what is interfering with the ability to see what is directly related content showing evidence of a fake son over a law office, the same law office that engaged in what is criminally misusing a bar license to steal property and unlawfully deny legal relief to which I am entitled to, while they are maintaining what is the elements of monitoring gang stalking and also engaging what is surveillance on the venue of the internet, online, and via communication devices. This is what's relevant with regard to the obstruction evidence on the venue of what is YouTube online, where the evidence is being monitored, and the entity is monitoring right now in real time in the specific environment inside of the same apartment where Engineer Light was scanning inside of the apartment as I access this very video content that I'm going to review right now. It is the video of the law office Estelle and Kennedy, the unprofessional law office that is documented as a facilitating venue where the fake son is over me, and that's what you're going to see here. Oopsie, sorry. That's what you're going to see here, so let's go ahead and review the video.
Following with his fake son and molesting with directed light. This is P.O.C. 7WFR033.
This is Estelle and Kennedy that's in relevant position. This is a facilitating venue, and everything that's happening under this fake sun, none of this is sunlight, nor is this the natural environment. This is where the entity is following around the supernatural occurrence of stalking with an entire environment which is demonic. The environment is demonic, and all the behavior is demonic, and it's accomplishing surveillance. It is the system of gang stalking, and it's happening at Estelle and Kennedy's law office. This is the same government actors, and they're government actors because they are criminally using California bar licensure to engage in facilitation of the P.O.C. All right, and they engage in what's facilitating theft by the entity that is still gang stalking to date, by the way. All right, this is where the entity has the fake son over me, and it is juxtaposed with the fake son over me in Ontario, and I'm documenting it not only over me in Ontario at the same time, which is impossible to be the case, but it's also remaining over me as the documentation shows and interfering with what is the ordinary use of the videos on YouTube, where you're capable of accessing the related content, but not so when the entity is protecting gang stalking attorneys in the state of California.
7YED056. She's the one molesting with directed light. License 7MFT710, and this is stalking in the path. He's maintaining presence on the street where the state is molesting with directed light under the fake sun, and molesting while they're making U-turns, light underneath the covered walkway of the Dance Dynamics onto the top of the structure, and the directed light that covers this sidewalk over here while they're opening and closing Lucky's coffee roaster's door. 7NLC241. This is what the people...
And remember, all the videos that I capture are organized by playlist, so what I'm referencing are videos that I previously captured moments earlier. So this video is not the first video that I captured on October 9, 2021. There's a playlist. Upland Police Department are gang stalking at Lucky's Coffee Roasters, molesting me with engineered light while they open a door. That's not the product of sunlight. The police department is gang stalking. I continuously walk down the street. Estelle and Kennedy is gang stalking. The facilitating venue is engaged in that P.O.C. in the specific environment, directly juxtaposed with what is keeping a fake sun over a Woodside Senior Apartments from sunrise until sunset, over me in Los Angeles from sunrise until sunset, where LAPD is gang stalking like the Ontario Police, like the Upland Police. It is the P.O.C. and the entity is obstructing justice, keeping the public from being able to see a clear pattern of what is the specific environment, the supernatural, the demon-possessed that are stalking as one under what is indeed a fake sun.
State engaging. All right, this is P.O.C. It's maintenance of presence. Let me be clear, Satan doesn't have to look at you or talk to you. He's under the fake sun. He's maintaining presence. 53019H3. I just want to make sure I get that. That's P.O.C. Just sitting in his...
So this is the fake sun as I'm documenting it at 8:38 a.m. This is the significance of that, which you can see here. right over me as I am documenting crossing a path, light activity, impossible light activity, and the maintenance of all the elements, in other words, in Upland, California. And the address is at Estelle and Kennedy's office, 367 North 2nd Avenue in Upland, California. Now, as you select the video, like YouTube has the function of the convenience of looking at related content, that's what you do. And the significance of this is that this is a short video. It's 1 minute and 28 seconds. However, it's not going to surface for the ignorant viewer, the person that doesn't know about gang stalking, the person that doesn't know anything about a fake son, doesn't know anything about the context about what I'm talking about. And prosecuting and recognizing the P.O.C, the demented behaviors of demons, is understood under the totality of circumstances. The demon-possessed, the corrupt government is I don't want to say profiting, yes, profiting, but capitalizing off of that, and you are necessarily looking at bits and pieces that are taken out in order to keep concealed what the entity is doing. But I'm going to show you what is the purpose of not providing what is a short video where you could see additionally related content to this video, which is in this form on purpose, and it is outside of how YouTube's website functions, because this is a short video.
From being over Center Ice Arena, which is across the street over there, where Union Pacific is stalking with audible activity. All right, where the state is hovering over the roof of that building in order to create audible activity, and the state's fake sun is in alignment. That's called light activity under the fake sun, and that's also magnified. It's magnified inside. That's directed light as she opens the door and closes. That's demonic activity, 8FSE040, and that's Andy's Burgers engaging in that. And this is the fake sun.
That is over me at the same time in Ontario, California, same time of year. Analysis applies. This is documented on October 9, 2021 at 8:38 a.m. at what is 310 East Holt Boulevard in Ontario. This is, again, happening while I am remaining and documenting what is remaining directly in the same manner in Upland, California at the Estelle and Kennedy Law Office. This is, again, the P.O.C. as you're recognizing what is impossible to coexist at the same time. What is also impossible is that the entity is not only under the fake sun at the same time, but this fake sun is documented remaining over the same exact address in the evening, which is what YouTube does not want you to see, while a short video is given to you in what is essentially the long form. It's in the format that it is when it's a video that's over 3 minutes long, and that precludes you from being able to see the related video content. This is by design, okay? This is the entity that is indeed gang stalking. Both of these videos are short videos, and it should be a chain of videos related like this. Pay attention. This is the P.O.C. This is how the video content is supposed to perform.
Here's the state's fake son meeting me as I am at the, well, not meeting, remaining present over me as I approach the entrance. It's 10:39 a.m. And this is where the state is captured. I'm capturing hours later. That's what I showed you yesterday. It remains over the venue. And not only that, that's that which is the state's direct light. Not only is the actual sun not going to remain over a venue, the literal ceiling of the venue, and that is directed light that you're looking, that is not what the sun would actually be engaging and aiming inside. You're looking at what the state is doing with its directed light. And you're also paying attention to the obvious. The state is maintaining its fake sun where I am, and impossible to coexist with ever being in, for example, the latest example in Lancaster, California, remaining through the window as I'm traveling that route to get to Los Angeles County.
Okay, again, I'm referencing video documentation where you have to pay attention to the totality of facts and understanding the significance of the environment and the relevance of that environment around me while I'm documenting what is conspicuous stalking of an entity that is very demented, engaging what is surveillance that's ongoing in the United States, and it's also demonic. That's what I'm talking about here. It's captured in a short video, which is, this video is 1 minute and 3 seconds. Its related content is this video here, which is also a short video.
And here's the directed light in the computer lab.
And this is directly opposite of what's happening with these two videos here. These are both short videos. You click on it.
All right, I just want to show you what is.
And when it comes in this long form, you're not able to see the related content, where the entity is picking and choosing what videos you are able to recognize this pattern of stalking with the fake sun based on what the entity is, again, cherry picking regarding what it is that you will be able to recognize, and those whom the entity wants to protect, protecting gang stalkers who practice law.
Just sitting in his.
While targeting me. I practice law, and the entity was targeting me, protecting the gang stalkers that practice law and criminally misuse their California bar licensure to do so. Both the gang stalking judges and the gang stalking lawyers who engaged in theft of my property. as I documented in what is Erica Lorenz Spencer v. Bill and Wags, which is the prosecution of the state of California that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, stole my car with the Ontario Police Department after defacing it, claiming that it's abandoned when they're gang stalking me on a daily basis using helicopters and airplanes, knowing exactly who I am and where I'm at while I'm documenting the entity in that specific environment while I am in my vehicle. This is where the entity is seeking to obstruct justice, concealing the evidence of a fake son outside of a law office relevant to the law office regarding attorneys in that office that engaged in theft of property, the criminal misuse of California bar licensure, which is the basis for not only prison, but basis to lose your California bar license permanently. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in that, and you're looking at a clear distinction between the same video content, shorts, less than 3 minutes, but yet two videos treated differently on the platform, and it's relevant regarding I'm exposing the government, and I'm exposing the government that's gang stalking with the population. The entity is engaged in all manner of suppression efforts. That's what's relevant here when you're looking at that. So I want you to see a chain of events. So you see I'm clicking on what is another short video, and this is the format that it's supposed to show up in.
This is not light that's going to occur through the windows. Sunlight is not shooting like a laser. State's fake sun now over the parking lot. That's not over the venue.
All right, so you can see, and you can click on another video.
Sure,
And that's another short video. This is how the content is supposed to generate, and you can clearly click on a link of related content. And with regard to documentation of a fake son, documentation of a gang stalking entity, particularly using the police departments and the fire departments and whatnot, where you are able to very vividly see a pattern as that related content is conveniently right here at the bottom. The entity is engaging in what is deviating from that, from the operation, the basic operation of the platform, in order to preclude you from being able to access that information. That's what's significant about this video. Now, this is where you're able to see what is the benefit of such a chain of related content.
Strip of directed light running across my...
I am showing you the pattern of conduct. The fake son is over me at the entrance of the Upland Public Library at the same time of year, while I am in the window of the Fontana Lewis Library. That's a very exclusive amount of sky space at the same time of year. I'm in Ontario at Fern Avenue and G Street at the same time of year. Analysis also applies, and this is speaking to what is an ongoing chain of evidence as you are able to look at a clear pattern in a supernatural environment. This is what the entity wants to avoid, and it's relevant to who the entity is protecting. It is not a malfunction, it's not a mistake, it's not a failure. It is the pattern of conduct of obstruction of justice. The entity is trying to, well, by the way, this is a video that got 34 views. And for purposes of suppressing my evidence, understand 34 views is a lot, because contrary to what the demons who you hear monitoring me in the background, they don't place any comments on my website. The entity is suppressing the evidence. The entity is gang stalking me while I publish the evidence. And the entity is intentionally maintaining a level of concealing the evidence that is published on the venue of the internet while still obsessively monitoring and stalking. Okay, the entity is doing so with knowledge of the probative value of everything that I'm exposing about the environment and where demons are stalking in that environment. That's the significance of YouTube's platform not functioning in the way that it's designed. Okay, when its design is used to expose people like the people of the state of California and corrupt third parties like YouTube, who are aiding in the surveillance system on the venue of the internet. All right, this is a third-party status is identified on the venue of the internet by facilitation. Anything that you're doing that's facilitating the P.O.C., that's a third party. And that's just a means whereby you can prosecute it and prove it with tangible evidence. But you need to understand, YouTube is in California. The demon-possessed are gang stalking. They work in the tech and the fields where the entity is relying on, for example, technology and social media on the venue of the internet. This is where surveillance is underway. Surveillance is thriving, and they're very much interested in keeping that, something that I'm exposing, speaking directly to, suppressed. Okay, that's why YouTube is not ignorantly engaging in a documented pattern of obstruction of justice. And how you prosecute that, how do you prosecute and prove, not based on intuitive knowledge, but based on tangible evidence, the fact that it is facilitating surveillance, which is committed in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. You're going to be prosecuted for that. All right, this is what YouTube is doing, and that's the significance of the state actor Daniela Couture Little, gang stalking and criminal misuse of her bar license while I'm documenting what is the P.O.C. outside of that law office where the people of the state are monitoring. And she's also gang stalking at the courthouse where she is misusing a bar license, engaging and facilitating the pattern of conduct. That's why the fake son is over me at that law office. And this is also why a means of suppression of that evidence is underway as you're looking at what is while you're looking at what is the evidence of the entity that is suppressing such access to a clearly identified pattern, okay? So I want you to see this as you're looking at the fake son that's over me at what is the law office of Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California. This is where the fake son
All right, I just want to show
at the
you.
same time is over me at the Andy's Burgers in Ontario, California. This is actually a short video, and so this is the form of the video that it's supposed to appear in so that you could easily see what is a related content showing you the significance of the fake son being over me at Estelle and Kennedy in Upland, California at the same time. Because at the same time, at this same address in Ontario where the son could not be over both venues at the same time in the manner it is over me at both venues at the same time, this is also where the fake son is documented in the evening at the same Andy's Burgers, showing what is gang stalking at a law office. A law office that is criminally misusing bar licensure to aid and facilitate the pattern of conduct like I documented in the case submitted against the state that is gang stalking. Erica Lorraine Spencer v. Bill and Wags. Case number CIVS 1930644, okay, initiated on October 11, 2019. This is the entity that is indeed very much engaged in, very much engaged in and interested in suppressing the identification of this environment that surrounds you, that is also supernatural, okay? This is the P.O.C. where the fake son is at the same time as I'm documenting over me at Estelle and Kennedy's law office at 8:38 a.m. on October 9, 2021. Same time of year and same time of day. Analysis applies.
Serena, which is across the street over there, where Union Pacific is stalking with audible activity. All right, where the state is hovering over the roof of that building in order to create audible activity, and the state's fake sun is in alignment. That's called light activity under the fake sun, and that's also magnified. It's magnified inside. That's directed light as she opens the door and closes. That's demonic activity. 8FSE040, and that's Andy's Burgers engaging in that. And this is the fake.
All right, the fake sun that's directly over, clearly reflecting off of the vehicles in the parking lot. They're clearly driving under the shadow of the vehicles or speaking to the immediacy of the presence of the sun that is not over any law office in Upland. It's directly over me. And also the sun is not an ubiquitous, an object that's maintaining ubiquitous presence, moving over all of us at the same time in all manner of direction that we're all inevitably traveling throughout the country for the duration of the day, rising and setting over all of us. This is the totality of the facts that are documented with regard to prosecuting and understanding what is stalking under it in an environment, stalking with light. Okay, it's entirely demonic, and surveillance is underway, and that's what's happening when the entity is seeking to conceal that by not providing the evidence in the form in which it ordinarily is, with regard to the short video forms where you can clearly click on related content at the same Andy's Burgers at 8:38 a.m. And here it is.
It is 4:32 p.m. This is B&G Plaza. Understand this is Andy's Burgers, the same location where the state's fake sun is over during the day and in the afternoon. And this is the state engaging in faking a sunset while aiming light on the exact same place. This is the pattern of conduct, okay? I took pictures of the state molesting me with light inside of Shiro's Liquor, all right? They're all touching together, criminal monitoring. Even when the state is playing peekaboo with its fake sun, they are still engaged in ongoing sexual violence, okay? The fake sun documentation is showing how the state is stalking with light because it's monitoring through all of these group stalkers, all these psychopaths, every single last one. And this is why you got all this light all over the place that is not from the sun. And they are in it all together. It's P.O.C. Understand?
This is the same Andy's Burgers that I'm documenting on what is October 9th at 8:38 in the morning. This is why you document, in order to capture this supernatural environment that, again, third parties on the venue of the internet want to keep concealed. And how are you keeping it concealed? Because it's still published online. However, the inability, it's very relevant with regard to related content and the abnormality of what is the short video not appearing in the form in which it should be, in order that an ignorant person, even the federal government, where you are blowing the whistle on the entity that's threatening your life, and the evidence is crucial to exposing the significance of how a system of public corruption conduct that's happening right in front of your face is speaking to what is under all circumstances terrorism, and it's also demonic, which is just another exacerbating aspect with regard to terrorism in the first place, where the government is stalking, and there are a bunch of demons under a fake sun that I document from 8:38 in the morning during daylight savings time and 4:32 in the evening outside of daylight savings time, which is irreconcilable regardless of daylight savings time, which is why you document Satan, who is a liar, who is also very corrupt and highly resourceful, seeking to conceal pivotal evidence by removing your ability to have easy access to that clearly recognized pattern through the short videos, where it should have been in that form, but it's not. And the reason that it's not is because you are able to very clearly see, and that's why it's in this form. When it's in this form, where it's in the format where the videos that are over 3 minutes are, it's preventing you from being able to see what is readily identifiable, easily accessible with regard to the pattern of conduct where...
It is 4:30.
With regard to the pattern of conduct where you're clicking on the link and you're easily accessing what is at the same exact address at a later time. That's the significance of what is YouTube's platform not operating in the way in which it was designed and relevant to the evidence and the substance of what it is that I'm publishing on the internet. This is a pattern. All right, and so this is another example where the entity is gang stalking, as this video shows on October 24th, 2021 at 1:46 p.m. at the Fontana Lewis Library at what is, again, 8437 Sierra Avenue in Fontana, California, and you are looking at what is the fake sun at 1:46 p.m. over the top of my head, and the entity is again concealing evidence, while the video that comes up in a different form, and it's supposed to be a short video in the same form so that you can easily click on related content, which is how YouTube's platform is designed. Hold on.
You've shown it, and I'm in Palmdale, okay, 24 hours ago. That's called crossing path 5XUX030. And this is what they were doing. This is what I was documenting on the roads, Route 138, while the demon-possessed were stalking on a highway, while they were engaged in federal stalking. All right. It is 1:46 p.m.
All right, this is at the Fontana Lewis Library. The significance of understanding a vehicle that's driving by me, it is referred to as crossing path. You're just driving by and minding your business in a normal, natural environment. It is a pattern of conduct in the specific environment where supernatural conduct in a supernatural environment is underway. And it is accomplishing monitoring, which is gang stalking. It's demonic. That's the significance of video evidence that proves that, and being on a platform that's not performing that in the way in which it's designed to, which also happens to coincidentally keep the public from being able to easily identify and access that video documentation. Okay, this is the significance. This is at 1:46 p.m. This is a short video, and that's why you can click on this.
Actually going to shoot.
And the video opens up, and what is the long form videos that are longer than 3 minutes. This is not how YouTube's website is designed to operate. This is designed to preclude the public from seeing the video that is related to this video, where you will see the pattern where Fontana police are gang stalking under a fake sun. That's over me at 10:32 in the morning, like here, and over me at what is 1:46 in the afternoon at the same Fontana Lewis Library. This is my address where I'm at right now, Fontana Lewis, on 10:32 a.m., where you just saw the fake sun over me, a supernatural occurrence. That's what's giving context regarding everyone that's around me and what everyone is doing around me. They're stalking an engineered light under a fake sun and creating activity in doing so. And on the video of the internet, while I'm publishing evidence about it, the entity is engaging in what is conduct, and the platform is behaving in ways outside of its normal functional design, creating what is easily accessible related content, and doing so in a manner that is barring your ability to very easily recognize that related content in order to obstruct justice. Okay, that's the significance.
Instead of taking a picture, I want you to see what is, first of all, the fake sun. Second of all, Fontana police monitoring. Third of all, this is directed light underneath the structure of the Steelworkers Auditorium. Third of all, here's my shadow here. Here is my shadow here, speaking to what the Fontana police are doing. Okay, I don't need that license plate. I'm going to prosecute Fontana police. They're engaging in terrorism and satanic activity. We're going to disband that police department, engaging in criminal conduct, and they are demon possessed. Here's my shadow here, and here is my shadow here. And I just want to be clear, the fake sun is here. There is no vantage point. That's called stalking with light. 8 UOB 099, terrorizing with.
And that's exactly what they're doing at 1:46 p.m. under an idle sun. That's a supernatural occurrence. The sun is not an idle, hovering star that doesn't move and remains over one building, as I'm documenting from 10:32 a.m. as you could just isolate it to these two videos, 10:32 a.m. until 1:46 p.m. as you are understanding, as I'm documenting and publishing the evidence of the pattern of conduct that's happening in this environment. That's supernatural, and everything that's happening in this supernatural environment is accomplishing the P.O.C. as I have exposed it. This is relevant to why YouTube's platform is not performing in the way that it's designed to perform. But if I was publishing evidence about dropping it like it's hot about the latest wigs and how to glue down your edges, and how to gyrate on men in some sexually explicit manner, that would be content that YouTube would not be interested in interfering with, and it would be performing in the exact manner that it's designed to, because the entity is not under any circumstances threatened by that, and it is not under any circumstances exposing parties like Estelle and Kennedy, an unprofessional law corporation engaged in what is gang stalking via the criminal misuse of California bar license. All right, and exposed as a state facilitating venue where the evidence of it is being concealed by the improper and abnormal performance of YouTube's platform on the venue of the internet, which also happens to be the way in which evidence that's speaking to and exposing a prevalent and obvious supernatural pattern, it's being concealed thereby. Okay, so that's what's relevant about that. I want you to see, when you're looking at this video that comes up in long form, Fontana PD is gang stalking.
Fontana police, a demon stalking in the path with light. Okay, and this is the impossibility of having the. You're suggesting that the sun is.
This is the same fake sun over the same exact address, the Fontana Lewis Library, but it's coming up in a video that's in long form. What YouTube is concealing is the long form video is actually a short video, and this is what you would have access to very easily. Going from, like you can see on this video here, where you can go through a chain of videos and easily identify
sure of what is
that pattern when you can click on one video after another. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is obstruction of justice in this manner, and the 10:32 a.m. video of Fontana PD gang stalking under the fake sun, the same fake sun that's over me at 1:46 in the afternoon at the same address. This is evidence speaking to how the creative means whereby the entity is obstructing justice, trying to conceal a bunch of demons that are monitoring in California, monitoring you in whatever state that you're in the United States, because we are under a specific environment. It's not the natural environment. That's what the entity is fearful of, and why YouTube's content, my content on YouTube is being obstructed from being capable of being readily identified with regard to related content. Okay, this is what's relevant.
Lewis Library and Technology Center in the city of Fontana. This is the state's light source. Alrighty, do you think that it has been over the Fontana Lewis Library remaining for the entire time? As I've already documented, while I'm here before this time and remaining after this time, no.
With regard to 10:32 a.m., that's what I'm referencing.
You're gonna shoot
I'm clearly there before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And like I'm documenting at 1:46 in the afternoon, where the Fontana Police Department is identified as the gang stalkers that they are. Those are gang stalkers that bear badges that are supposed to render them authority under the law, but which they actually don't have while they're engaging in surveillance, which we, the people, have never, and I don't mean the people of the state that are gang stalking, we, the American people, have never agreed to permit the government to keep us under surveillance. In fact, we have a document, it's kind of important, it's referred to as the state and federal constitutions, and we have rights to privacy and searches, etc., that outlaw what the Fontana Police Department is doing, and on a facilitating venue like YouTube, where its platform is not performing in the way that it's supposed to, in order that you are not
is 240
readily this evidence of stalking with light, which is relevant with regard to the documentation of stalking under a fake sun. That's the significance of the documentation that's being interfered with, while the videos are not performing in the way that they're supposed to. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show in this video and this screen recording. This is another example. The reason why this video I will give, because the entity is relying on the fact that you are always looking at the totality of circumstances. The demon possessed who work with illusions with regard to literally a fake sun. That's an illusion of the natural environment, and you can compare what I'm documenting in Ontario, California, with what's happening over you in the sky space in I always use Florida. You can use Mississippi, Minnesota. You can use Washington State. You can use the state capital, Washington, D.C., because the sun and the natural environment is never anywhere over the president when he's holding these meetings, over the head of the FBI when they're holding these meetings outside on the lawn, and you're looking at the sun shining over them. What is shining over them while I'm documenting a fake sun remaining over me, as I have been since 2018? Evidence that's exposing what's happening in this country, and it's relevant to an unnatural environment. And where that pattern is very vividly seen in my content as I relate it with other videos that you can access, this is the significance of YouTube's platform not acting in the way that it's designed to perform. Okay, that's what's relevant about that. And it is unlawful and criminal acts of obstruction of justice, which YouTube is documented engaging in for years. And it's state action. It's state action. The entity is doing so in conformity to a pattern of conduct seeking to conceal surveillance that's happening in concert with the people of the state. That's what YouTube is. The people of the state are monitoring with the government, in the shoes of the government. That's the significance of gang stalking at an apartment complex under a fake sun, with that government that uses planes and helicopters at that. That's the significance of that. It's happening on the venue of the internet, and obstruction, suppression tactics like this, like I'm expounding upon in this video, are in conformity to that long documented P.O.C. Now, in this video here, the significance is you're understanding what is stalking with light. It's happening day and night. Stalking with light, all manner of light, and it is very vividly seen when a fake sun remains over me, and all of them are together stalking with light. It's the same thing that's happening at nightfall. This is showing how the convenient use of what is the related content using short videos is significant, and it's also significant when they're not performing in the way that it's designed to perform on the platform, which is a means of concealing that clearly recognizable pattern on the venue of the internet where I'm exposing, and it's also protecting myself. The entity is still gang stalking. You can hear Tracy Banks in the background. She's monitoring. She is pacing like a psychopath. And this is, again, while I am publishing this evidence on the, well, I'm documenting right now. I will be publishing it online. And this is the same entity that is engaging what is stalking with light in the way in which I'm showing in video evidence, publishing it onto the venue of the internet.
I began recording video. They're stalking with the Fontana police, molesting with light, license 5ZOY485. That vehicle is in directed light. And this is, again, my shadow is here. My shadow is right here. And this is Fontana police that is group stalking in the path. This is demonic activity and terrorism while Fontana police are engaging in federal stalking with the people of the state. Understand the significance of what is that group stalker following with a trash can, dragging it on the ground.
All right, again, I'm documenting in multiple ways. I'm maintaining a podcast, that's what I'm referring to, and I am taking pictures, and I'm speaking about everything that I'm documenting on an ongoing basis and what I'm previously documenting. So that's always the case. And the entity that's gang stalking is mindful of the fact that you are not aware of that, and is designed to piecemeal the information so that you're getting bits and pieces of it instead of what is all of the evidence as I provided it in a streamlined fashion, organized in its introduction to you, and made it as palatable as it can be with regard to the average unsophisticated viewer that has no idea about demonic activity, no idea about surveillance, and also clearly nothing about the specific environment I'm the first person ever speaking to and exposing it. And the entity is desperately seeking to conceal, and if they can't conceal it, so then they just harass me, such as what I'm documenting today via podcast, stalking with light inside of this apartment where Tracy Banks is pacing. She's pacing and monitoring right now while I'm capturing it, and this is the same apartment where the entity is monitoring online. And as I'm exposing this means of obstruction of justice, concealing evidence where the evidence of related content is not readily available to the public when it's given to you in long form, when it should be given to you in what is short form, so that you can easily click on the link and see what else is related.
This is demon.
All right, this is the same pattern of stalking with light, and the Fontana police are crossing path, gang stalking with regard to knowledge of everything that I'm doing, including on my communication device. Now, you have a trail of videos while the entity is engaging in what is picking and choosing which videos to interfere with your easy access to related content as I provide it. The entity is, again, making a distinction with regard to the ignorant onlooker. And by ignorant, I'm not making any sort of denigrating reference to any person. You're ignorant because you don't know what I'm talking about. You are literally learning it as I'm breaking it down. That's what I mean by ignorant. That's all. Not the ignoramuses who are gang stalking to their own demise and they're going to prison and mental asylums. okay? Not the ignoramuses that are gang stalking under a fake sun, clearly showing that they are highly unintelligent and they're predators who are psychopaths, gang stalking. I don't mean ignorant in that term. I mean, you clearly do not know. I'm explaining it in as basic terms as I possibly can in order to understand the intricacy and also the very simplicity where gang stalking is underway. It's both at the same time. Okay, now it gets intricate with regard to understanding how I am at the same time always legally analyzing, because you're going to prosecute public corruption. It's very demonic, and it's public corruption amongst the population and the people, and they're engaging in a pattern. This is a pattern of stalking with light at nightfall. The entity is doing so while the trail of evidence creates that. So I want you to see this, and it's happening under the fake sun as well.
Stalking with lights. The Fontana Police Department doing the same thing, loitering at the street, starts driving the moment I start recording, and this is where the state is patrolling with helicopter right here. This is what I'm speaking of on my podcast, okay?
All right, so this is another video related content. Appearing in the manner, playing in the manner where it is easily accessible, where you could easily see a trail, a pattern is recognizable in the way in which YouTube's platform is designed. Interfering with that is a means of obstructing justice so that you don't see that. Protecting gang stalkers like Estelle and Kennedy, okay? The gang stalkers who criminally misuse law licenses, California bar licensure, which is not used to engage in domestic terrorism. And you lose your license. You use your California bar license to gang stalk someone or facilitate it, you're losing it.
Southwest Airlines. This is the fake sun. This is the city of Fontana at Sierra Avenue and Arrow Boulevard. All right? And that is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, I'm going to tell you, in the middle of the street, it is 3:28 p.m.
Okay, context is that at 3:28 p.m., the entity is keeping the fake sun over me. This is around the corner from the Fontana. I'm feet away from the Fontana Lewis Library. The entity has the fake sun over the Fontana Lewis Library, where I'm walking toward at 10:32 in the morning. This is the video of the entity gang stalking me en route to the Fontana Lewis Library, like I documented. Same time of year analysis applies at 3:27 in the afternoon. The fake sun that's going to be at the intersection of Arrow and Sierra Avenue is the same fake sun that's over the same location at 10:32 a.m. This is indeed Fontana police being documented as engaging in federal group stalking monitoring with the people of the state. The demons in traffic, the demons in all the buildings. Those buildings are businesses. Those buildings are homes. Those buildings are government buildings. The fire department, the Chamber of Commerce, the police department, the Fontana Lewis Library itself is San Bernardino County. That's a government building, and they're gang stalking under that specific environment. And on the venue of the internet, the evidence of it is a means of being concealed where the related content is not accessible to you in the way in which it's supposed to be, in conformity to the way in which YouTube has designed it. And it's protecting the Fontana Police Department.
All right, that's exactly what I documented, by the way. The state stalking me by airplane on September 12, 2019, while the state was engaging in federal stalking, in that which Thomas Garza disregarded because he's a group stalker, a demon-possessed group stalker engaging in facilitation. All right, that's exactly what I documented. That's exactly what they were doing. That's what I documented.
And that's
right here, Fontana Police Department.
Yeah, that's the Fontana Police Department
fake sun.
Under the fake sun at 3:27 p.m. The next related content, very easily accessible when you click on it.
All right,
you're able to very clearly see at the same time in an entirely different location. The two aren't happening at the same time. This is requiring that there's at least 10 different suns. While I'm in Ontario, while I'm in Fontana, that's not the sun that's maintaining that sort of presence in the way that I'm showing it. This is the P.O.C. and I'm documenting what is a method of suppressing evidence while I still remain subject to that pattern of conduct. Okay, that's an unlawful threat by the platform itself, and it's in conformity to the threats that the entity, which is the platform itself, YouTube, is posing while I'm subject to the P.O.C. in the form of concealing evidence in the way in which I've exposed the platform not performing in the way that it's designed. And this is showing what is over me at the intersection where Fontana and the people of the state, the Fontana Police Department, are gang stalking at Sierra and Arrow and Fontana. And this is over me in the parking lot in Fontana, California, I believe. No, this is... This is the significance of documentation. We can see exactly where we're at in Ontario at 1939 East 4th Street in Ontario, California. This is, again, the P.O.C. of documentation. Stalking with light is shown in the environment, and it's occurring both during the day under the fake sun, and at nightfall. The entity that is, again, interfering with the ability to access your ability to easily access this pattern, which I've made palatable for the public to witness, is a method of obstruction of justice. Okay, it doesn't get any more simpler than that. Putting it on the YouTube platform and relating it to content. As you watch one video, you can click on another one and click on another one and click on another one and click on another one, and that's how you're able to see what is, oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and it's supernatural, and it's also supernatural while you're out there in Texas and you're looking at the sun that's remaining over you, because I know it's hot in Texas, and that's not the same sun that's remaining over me for the duration of the day at one building. And as I've also documented, as I travel from city to city, and as I've lived in an entirely different county, and it never left over me at that apartment building. I'm referencing the LAPD gang stalking at the Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is documentation in 2024. All right, this is significant with regard to what it is that I am exposing, and this is the P.O.C. My YouTube channel is the P.O.C. The website is on, again, where you can find it, the P.O.C. website, where everything is published. This is a criminal system of federal group stalking and monitoring, and it is practiced throughout the United States, and I am in California exposing it. This is the P.O.C. that is also exposing the podcast, which is on the website, which again, I suggest the entity is engaging in all manner of creative means of seeking to obstruct justice, trying to conceal your ability to easily identify the pattern that I have fully proven in the body of evidence, which is the P.O.C. And this is where you can easily access it here. Look everything under the look tab at the documentation of the United States government, and this is in concert with the population, the people of the state that you hear in the background right now, the people of the state that I've been documenting for years, since 2018. All right, and this is how this documentation is organized. YouTube is nothing but a third party showing how the people of the state, meaning surveillance, is underway throughout the United States, including on the venue of the internet, where no private speech is underway. No private, it's not private speech, it's state speech. It's facilitating the pattern of conduct, and any unlawful means of facilitating murder and kidnapping by a corrupt gang stalking government is going to result in a prosecution of a federal nature. All right, this is the significance of the documentation. I just wanted to show this. This has been a screen recording on April 24, 2025 at 7:36 p.m. This is P.O.C.